What's the craziest story you
Oh
have
my
from,
God.
from a job?
Sheriff lockouts are always like, you don't know. Am I going to get shot through the door while I'm picking open the lock? Am I not? I don't know.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Bluntly Bears podcast. I am Alex, and today I am joined by two fine gentlemen, Max and Tim. Nice to have you guys.
Nice to be here. This is the part where you talk.
This is unnatural.
It's just a conversation with with a microphone in front of you. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And nice little cup.
Oh, yes. Product placement.
Product placement early on. Well, guys, I've known Max and Tim here for some time, and it's always exciting to kind of dive a little bit deeper than I typically would with you guys and kind of what you do for work. But you guys have been running a business here for the last few years, and I've been hearing lots of cool things from you, and thought it might be nice to actually sit down and unpack the journey a little bit. But I guess to get started, I'd love to hear from you guys kind of what you do for work, what you do, what a little bit about your business, and just kind of introduce yourselves.
Take it away, Maestro.
Oh, all right. So, basically, I'm a co-owner of East Portland Locksmith. My job primarily is to help people out with various lock security issues and anything related to just about anything that locks. Anything that locks on a house, on a car, commercial, residential, safes, just a variety of different things. My role is more, it's kind of hard to pin down exactly. I get to do a little bit of everything, just because we're still fairly small and we're still growing. So we're not really like specializing too much. And because of that, I get a chance to really work through a variety of different roles, and I wear a bunch of different hats.
I mean, he's like our encyclopedia, where if we're like, I don't know what this part is, guess who we call?
Who?
Max.
What?
Yeah, because I'm like, Max, hey, what is this thing? He'd be like, oh, it's a 486-14. I'm like, oh yeah, sweet, order it for me. And so he's like, yeah, he's our little engine that could keeps things running. I go out there, I run around like a chicken with its head cut off, and he tells me where to go. You must enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, that's very pleasant. That's very nice. And then the worst part about it, though, is you're a co-owner. So, I mean, like, I get to tell you what to do, but in the end, we're still equals.
On paper.
Yeah.
On paper.
Well, so you're doing more of the work yourself? Is that kind of...
Yeah, well, I'm out in the field. He's more of shop, and he does, like, the quotes, phone call, screening, and, yeah, I'm the guy that I'm driving around town all day long. And yeah, it's fun. It's good. It's sometimes hard, but when you don't work for the man, you are the man. You have to kind of like, I don't know, nobody else is going to do it, so you have to do it. You know, like you don't want to. Sometimes you're like, I feel like lazy, but you're like, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
No one else to lean back on. It's kind of up to you. So how like is that? I guess kind of diving into the different roles and specialties for you guys, obviously wearing different hats. How were you always just more interested in the field work, and that's kind of why you're doing that? Were you always more the office guy? Like, how do you guys kind of determine who's kind of heading up what?
I think because we started out at H. Mitchell, which was a wholesale for locksmiths, and Max worked there
Since 2010.
Wow.
So I worked there from 2010 to about 2018. And I kind of, my role there was very much sales oriented. And so I get it. Like, if you're in sales, like, I get the struggle. It's a pain in the butt, but I've, you all got to do it at some time. You got to learn how to do sales.
Yeah. Agreed.
It makes life easier moving forward, for that matter, because it's easier to deal with people on the phone. It's easier to deal with people in general, just because you have some of that experience of being able to be in a weird or tight spot on the phone and then just walk your way out of it or talk your way out of it.
Did you order me this part? Yeah, it's coming in.
Oh yeah.
Next day here.
That's one of my favorites. Hey, yeah, I remember the conversation. Yeah, we talked about ordering you an Adams right Panic Bar. Yeah, let me go ahead and check in with the manufacturer to see its status, and I'll give you a call back here. Okay?
Order. So I mean, Max was there for 8 years, so he like the amount of knowledge that he had just like parts and just like the knowledge of the actual hardware and kind of the way that it works. Then I came in 2013 or 2014, I think. I started working there, and I worked there for 5 years, I think. But I was more of like shipping warehouse. So I didn't do a lot of that, like the internal knowledge stuff. So Max is more of, again, like I'm doing what I'm doing, because if I did what he would be doing, it would be another like 3 years in order for me to just catch up with the head knowledge that he already has on the stuff to actually make business run smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's not to say you're a slouch or anything.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not completely useless, but it's like because it's different roles. You know, you all have your own role. Like I'll go do the jobs, and then it's like, again, if because I've done stuff that he hasn't in the field, and he knows stuff that I haven't even seen yet. So it's a good give and take.
Yeah, we complement each other, I think, pretty well, because like a lot of what I know is theoretical, and a lot of what Tim knows is practical. So what happens is we'll go out to a job site where let's say we're doing a job we've never done before, installing some sort of new type of locking mechanism, you know what I mean, on a door that we've never provided, we've never dealt with, we've never encountered. And when that happens, what typically happens is with the both of us out there, I dive into the book, Tim dives into making it happen.
Yeah, because I have the comprehension of a 4-year-old reading a manual.
No. I mean, honestly, not to toot your horn, but I will say that, for example, when it comes to workload and it comes to speed and ability to take care of things practically, Tim is far and above beyond what I can do. So, like, if we were given the same task when it comes to like installing hardware, right? If it's new, I might progress faster through it and have less maybe stoppage. But when it comes to something that he's done before, I can't keep up. Like, I mean, he can install 3 locks fresh within an hour, you know, on 3 different doors. I'd be stuck there I'd still be on the first door. Mm-hmm. It's just what it is. We kind of start to excel, and we have our roles, and because we have certain roles that we play more often than others, I think, because of that, Tim excels in certain areas.
No, what's nice is to know your role too. I listened to another podcast. It wasn't yours. I'm sorry. Wow. But he said, I can't remember who it was, but he said something interesting about, like, if you have a business, there's a lot of guys that want to do everything. They want to do the accounting. They want to do the marketing. They want to do everything. And you can, and it'll save you money. But why would you do that when you can hire somebody to do some of the stuff, and you can focus on the more important things of the business? So it's like, you know, can I dive in and try learning all this stuff? Sure, but why stretch myself thin when we have a partnership that works where he has, you know, his part and I have my part?
Yeah, it's funny because I work with a lot of small businesses at my company, and I've had those conversations so many times where it's like a founder, a sole founder that's trying to grow, but is also trying to watch the bottom line, and like, well, if I hire someone on, it's going to be, you know, X amount of dollars. Why can't I just do this job myself? But yeah, if you're looking to grow and scale, it's definitely an investment, right? And you have to see that return, which is, it seems like you guys have a good balance there of knowing your strengths. So like, was it intentional? Like, you knew that, like, I guess kind of going back to understanding the different roles and kind of knowing your role, was it intentional that you said, okay, like I'm strong in the field, so I'm going to focus on honing in into those skills instead of trying to learn the head smart stuff, or like?
I mean, I came into locksmithing knowing nothing about the locksmithing. So like, I mean, I knew kind of like just the bare basics. So I was taught out in the field. So it was just, I don't know, it just fell into place. It was kind of like an obvious, didn't even have to talk about it kind of thing. Cause I mean, if the guy has the knowledge, why would you put him somewhere else where he's going to be way better suited using his strength? And I mean, I can learn mine, and I did. So it works out great.
Yeah.
I mean, what also helps is kind of falling into the roles. It also helps that we, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, trying to figure out how we got to where we got. So, I mean,
Luck.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Some of it has to do with luck and placement and all that. And not just that, like, just our personalities as well. I think that with my personality, I tend to do well with juggling a bunch of different things and like reprioritizing and all of that. Whereas Tim is far better suited for like done next. You know what I mean? And it's just sort of, it just works. Mm-hmm. Whereas with me, a lot of times what happens is I'm working on one project, I have to shelve it because another one takes priority. I have to work on another project, I shelve it because another one takes priority. And so like, that's where me being in the office in the shop like works a lot better, because I just put out the fires that are the most important at that moment.
Prioritize.
Exactly. And so that's kind of like, even for day-to-day stuff, it's what it is. Like I have an idea of what I want to accomplish in the day, but that doesn't always go to plan, you know?
And it's not always sunshine and roses, because it's like, when you think like, okay, if you're starting a business by yourself, you're like, okay, well, it's just you. So you do whatever you want, however you want. You're like, well, I want to go this direction. You go this direction. I want to go. It's like at a drop of a hat, you can change direction, and that's what it is. But when you have, so we have, it's a 3 co-owner partnership situation. So it's like, okay, if I have an idea, I'm not going to be like, here's how we're doing it. It's, you know, we're discussing it with 3 people. Nice thing about that is it kind of puts the brakes on if you think an idea is good and somebody brings up a point that you haven't thought about yet. Because you always think that your idea is the greatest, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So that's what's nice. But the downside is then now you have to work with 3 people that have the same amount of say. They have 3 different personalities. So it's, I don't know. You have to like, it's a lot of like, kind of like humility where like, well, you know, I'm part owner, so I should, you know, if I want to do this and I'm like, whatever, I feel strongly about it, or I think it's important, whatever. And let's say the other 2 don't agree. You have to have the humility to be like, okay, that's fine. We'll do it another way, and not be stubborn and, you know, just keep like chopping away at your own way, which sometimes, you know, it's hard, but it works. It works. Like we made it work, because, you know, you hear like, you know, like, well, because Max is my brother-in-law, right? And our third partner is his father, my father-in-law. So, you know, people say don't work with family because, you know, it can get messy, and I understand it, because then it's, you have your family life where they're a part of, and then you have your work life, which they're also a part of. So expound on that, Max. Well, we also lived together for like a year and a half, all of us, while we're saving up for a house. So it's a whole.
I mean, if we go into like the background of our history and everything like that, I think we definitely seem a little cultish.
A little sister wifey, but not really.
No, like a lot of nepotism, right? I'm just kidding. No, it's. But I mean, a lot of our success is due to the fact that of our ability, I think, to work together, our willingness to kind of put aside our own selfish desires, so to speak, or our own like ego to
close
sort of
our eyes to shortcomings.
Yeah, because like I have serious shortcomings as well as, I mean, I think all of us do, but because we're willing to work together, and because we're willing to kind of take a step back and ignore some of shortcomings of each other, and they're, we're able to like work together and be successful. Really, I believe that's really what has enabled us to grow as much as we have and sort of continue to be profitable.
Yeah, ignore the shortcomings, but also call them out if need be. Because like my personality, it's very hard for me. I will internalize every feeling in the world, and I would never let it out, and I will never say anything until I get an ulcer at the age of 40 and my head explodes. So like for me, that was like a learning thing of also like, okay, I'm working with people. It's, it's a business that you co-own. So you have to like what do they say is the like most important thing in any relationship? Communication, right? And it's like communication is not a strong suit if you can't be upfront with people and you're just passive aggressive instead, which is my trademark. So, Max has to put up with that. And, I recognize that, I have to be more upfront with certain things and not just, be a catty little baby.
I don't even notice when he's passive aggressive. I'll be honest with you.
Which is great.
It's actually hilarious that he says that because I've never noticed him being passive aggressive.
That's how good I've gotten.
What I'm saying is Tim's just passive. He's just.
I can be aggressive.
No, I mean, not as aggressive as me. Like if I'm having like a tough day, like a really hard day, like it's kind of it's evident to all. Like you can hear it in my voice. You can hear it with me punching things in the back. Just like you're like, Max is having a tough day. With Tim, you get I think a little more quiet, more reserved. You turn into like I think like into school shooter mode, and just
too soon.
We're gonna have to cut that.
Let's cut that one out. And action. Sorry, folks, about that technical difficulties.
So anyway, like and Tim, you sort of internalize that. You sort of get really quiet and reserved, and that's something that I mean, you remind me of a young Ted Kaczynski.
I don't know what that is. Google it later.
Google it, yeah.
I am what I am. But no, that's what the whole thing about partnership, and like I've thought about it because when the whole like locksmith thing started happening, when it was presented to Max, I was like, man, like would I want to go into like a partnership type of thing? I'm like, man, would it be better to do something on my own? I don't know. Like on your own sounds cool because you have the freedom. But I'm like, I guess, okay, fine. I'll join. I'll ask Max if I can be a partner. Max agreed. But the important thing is if you're going into business and you're going into a partnership, like you have to do some like hard thinking to make sure that this is something that you will give up things that you want and you will have the humility to work with somebody else.
It's like a professional marriage, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you see your partner more than you do your wife. So, it really, really is. Actually, yeah. You're at work 8 hours a day and then you come home and sometimes you come home late and you see your wife for 4 or 5 hours and yeah. Wow, that's depressing.
It's depressing.
Well, and I've heard like business owners, especially when you're starting out, say that like if you want to grow and if you want to be successful, you have to put the interest of the business as like your number one priority before the interest of yourself, or like the interest of your employees before the interest of yourself. Like, how would you let's say that kind of correlates with you guys and your partnership? Like, is that kind of the way you see it too?
Oh, I can answer that one. I was lied to. Coming into business, I was basically told.
I don't think you were lied to. I think you lied to yourself. We didn't say anything.
Basically, the whole gist of like going into locksmithing was like the idea that I would have more free time, a little more flexibility, right? So like my goal and my intention with talking to everybody was like, hey, so I can work less and make the same amount of money, right? They're like, yes.
I didn't say that.
And then
I kept quiet because I'm passive.
You internalize that, right? You're like, this sucker's gonna learn. But like, yeah, when we started it, it was nose to the grindstone quite a bit. There was when we first started, I think we worked Monday through Saturday, and
Saturdays were half days, to be fair.
Yeah, they were half days, but realistically, we worked overtime as well. So basically, we would primarily start at about 7 and end roughly around the same time.
So were you guys part of like founding the business too? Like that's what you mean by starting it, or like was the business up and running and you guys kind of?
Yeah, the business has been around since like the 50s, I think.
Yeah. Do you want to get into the history? Maybe we can.
Yeah. That's
that
interesting.
way you kind of have a little more of the pieces of the puzzle before.
Right.
Then we can expound on them.
Yeah.
I guess you want to get into the history.
I think you know the history better.
All right. So wait, our history or
the history of East? Well, let's say the history of the business that we bought, because we didn't start the business. Okay. We bought an existing business that was on like a 50% downslope, just because they were old.
We bought a fading business.
Fading.
Okay, so let's walk through this process. How did that happen?
Let's start from the process. So having been involved with wholesale, we knew a lot of locksmiths. We talked to a lot of locksmiths, and some of the relationships that we built with them, they were more open to us about conversations and other things. Like we would get calls and people would ask us if we know anyone that's looking for a job, a locksmith, right? And we'd have situations where other locksmiths would call us and say, hey, is anybody interested in buying a locksmith business? We'd have some guys joke about it, but some of them would joke in a manner that's like, hey, if you could buy my business, I'd be so happy. I'm done.
Yeah.
And so there was a particular company, East Portland Locksmith, that I sold to, and over the years I knew the previous owner who passed away, and then I knew the current owners, sort of owners.
So you were selling parts to them before as a wholesaler?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as a part, and we sold to them for quite a while, and they. At that point, in about 2018, they were already offering their business multiple times to multiple different locksmiths as well, and there wasn't any headway being made. And at my pops, which is our other partner, he basically was doing subcontract work for her at that time, because he stepped away from H.E. Mitchell. He sold H.E. Mitchell, and so he stepped away from it. And he was doing subcontract work for her.
He had another business before that he sold?
So, oh, man, you really need some history. Hang on. All right. So this kind of, because this is so intertwined with my family and stuff like that, you kind of have to know the history of my dad as well.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So he was a locksmith in the 90s, early 2000s. Sorry. I think he was 90s, 2000s.
A long time ago. He
started a locksmith business, and then he stopped doing that, and he went on to forget what it was. He sold that business, and then he decided to go on another business, and then he went back to locksmithing, and then he sold locksmithing again, went to another business, and then he sold that, and then finally he was coming up to he was buying product from a struggling wholesaler, so someone who wholesales to other locksmiths. And he thought that there was potential in that. So Dad went, how much do you want for the whole business, right? Guy and him talked, got to an agreement. He bought the business from him in about 2009, 2008. And then that's where I started to work in about 2010. And I started to sell to locksmiths across.
Your dad's company, or is separate?
At Dad's company, at Dad's wholesale company. So I started to sell to locksmiths there, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth on everything.
Okay.
And then from there, this is where the conversation picks up later. So closer to about 2018, I think 2017, Dad finally stepped away. He sold the wholesale business to another wholesale company. And that wholesale company, long story short, that wholesale company sold to another conglomerate. That conglomerate sold, it was like, it became a whole string of things. But after the first initial sale, he went back to his roots as a locksmith.
And you guys stayed?
And we stayed at the wholesale place. And so he went back to his roots as a locksmith, and he was his own, deal for almost a year. And during that time, he subcontracted for East Portland Locksmith occasionally, right? Because they didn't do automotive work, and he did. And so they subcontracted automotive jobs to him, and she talked to him about selling the business to him. And he's like, I don't need it. Like, I just got out of like a long-term business relationship type deal. And he came to me and he said, look, if there's an offer on the table to buy a business, I don't want to do it alone. If you want to, we go in it, all of us, you and I. And I said, okay, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Let me think about it. We were on vacation all together at the same time. So it was like we were talking about it. And then at that point, Tim kind of overheard the conversation, took about a day or two to think about it. And
it was a couple of weeks.
Was it a couple of weeks?
I think so. I really had to think about it. Remember what I said? You have to really think about the people that you work with and see if it was worth it.
He's only known me for how long? And then basically Tim was like, hey, can I join in? And for me, the way I looked at it is like, that's awesome. Cause I see, like, don't get me wrong, my dad's great and wonderful, right? And he's done a lot. And I think that we're blessed in our lives, in our situation a lot by what he's done. I mean, he's made a lot of sacrifices. And he's also went out on a limb for us as well. Cause we've been like employees, but we've never really been partners on equal terms and whatnot. And so it's not an easy thing to do, where being a person who runs their own business exclusively, who makes their own decisions exclusively, from his end, he also had to take a step back and be like, okay, fine. You want to do it your way? We'll do it your way. You guys outnumber me. And so around that time, we decided, let's do it. We took out a loan to buy the business, and we bought it. The owners of it, quasi-owners, that's a whole nother can of worms. But quasi-owners basically were there, stayed on for about 2 months or a month. I think it was a month. Yeah. They stayed on for a month to train me up in how they run things and how they do things.
What were they selling it?
They're old.
They were old.
Just looking to retire, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were late 70s, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were in a situation where they basically were not, they weren't developing as a company. They weren't really expanding. They weren't growing. And they were at a place where they were down to like a few customers that they were maintaining, like really big customers that were the chunk of everything that they did for business. And so they had a couple subcontractors that we also started to work with. And so after that first month, they stepped out completely, and we started to really clean and renovate and do as much as we can to kind of bring that place into working order, because it was down to like pretty bad state. I mean, I'm talking like they had I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like 70s tube lights, like 12-foot long lights of tube and gas in the lights.
And there was only 2 of them for the entire shop.
Yeah. And it's like a 750 square foot
literally,
shop.
it was like 2 of them lighting up the whole shop.
Yeah, they had like they had situations where they had what's the word I'm looking for? Extension cords, right? Not extension cords.
Surge protectors.
Surge protectors.
Yeah.
They had they strung like 4 or 5 surge protectors together to plug in a
fire
light.
marshals they're like, oh my gosh, this is heaven.
Oh, there's like their ceiling was like the popcorn tiled ceiling,
man.
and it was like missing chunks of it and stuff.
And it's like, you can't blame them, because again, they're like in their 70s. They're not climbing up on a ladder and doing lights and everything. Like I think she was looking to retire for a long time,
Like 10 years.
So yeah, like we had to get out there. We had to clean it out, put lights, like kind of take care of the building, make it look not so run down. And yeah, we had to, we're like, oh, we do automotive now, and like we can take on more work. And those first 2 years were fun, because I mean, it wasn't starting from zero. So it wasn't like, oh, we just started up this business and we're starting it from scratch. And like, I mean, again, it's been there for a long, long time. It had the name recognition. They had clients, but like, I mean, it was surprisingly, because I was like, oh, it's an existing business. That's awesome. Like, we're buying an existing business, so it should be super easy. But those like first 2 years, it was like if starting from scratch is a 1, this was like a 3.5. you know, because it was kind of like you're almost starting from scratch because you're like kind of regaining the recognition of the name because a lot of people stopped calling them because what do they have, like two people working, like two guys working or something, so like you weren't able to do a lot, so it was kind of like starting from almost from scratch, and it was fun. It was hard. And this gets to like the whole Alex asked,
what was the question again? The original question. Let's play that back. Hey, Jamie, can you pull that up?
It was actually, which is a really good question because I've thought about this question about like business owners saying like you like at a point you put the business first,
yes,
right, and you put like majority of your time and of your effort and of your strength into it, and for a little bit we did, and you know, thankfully we didn't have to do like just an insane amount just because it wasn't an already established business, but you know, we did have to do work. But to the point of like how much of yourself do you give to the business? I mean, everybody will have their own line of how far they'll go and, you know, how little time at home there'll be or whatever. But like, at that point, me and my wife, we had a kid, and then in 2018 we had another one. So it's like you want to work, you want to build the business, you want to expand it, but at the same time I'm like, I don't want to be gone more than 9 hours a day, because it's like, I don't know, like for me, and people listening, like businessmen might be listening and be like, oh, what a baby, I can't believe it, I slept on the couch in the office and I didn't see my family for 3 weeks and I did this, like, and that's great. If you can do that, like, wow, all the power to you. But I decided that I couldn't. I something that I wouldn't do, because it's just, I don't know. I could have been like, yeah, you guys can go home. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to whatever, keep painting the ceiling, or like start like organizing this and cleaning this, and we're going to do this and this and this. I could have easily done it even if Max and Victor didn't want to. But I didn't want to either, just because like to me, the business is important because that's how I feed my family, but my family is also important because, okay, I have the business, but I don't have my family. I'd rather have the family.
Yeah, it's about figuring out your priorities and kind of sticking to it.
Yeah.
I think it's the people that don't define those priorities that are like miserable, because, you know, like they just don't know. And I've definitely seen that.
And don't be business shamed. You know, like you do hear a lot of guys that like were self-starters and they're like I worked so hard and so much and like it was just so insane. Like those years were crazy, and that's great. But yeah, think for yourself if that's what you want to do and that's how you want to do it. And if it's not, then like don't give 100% of yourself to it, because you'll just end up, I don't know, resenting your own business.
No, dog. I'd rather hustle 24/7 than slave 9 to 5.
Wake up at 5 a.m. every morning.
Yeah. And for some people, that's their thing. But for me, it wasn't.
It is. Like I was listening to an interview with Gary Vee, who's like the king of hustle culture, right? For the longest time. And someone asked him, like, how do you not burn out? And he said, because this is what I love to do. Like, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than like working on my business.
Yeah, he has an unhealthy relationship with. He's a workaholic. Just kidding.
And
just kidding, Gary. I know you're listening to this.
Shout out.
Check him out, Gary Vee. No, but like if that's what you want to do, and if that's what like your purpose is, then sure. But if your family is important to you, then
or like if you have a wife and you're like, no, like, you know, woman, this is what's important to me. Or if you're the woman hustler and you're like, husband, this is what's important to me. And if they're like, well, it'd be great to see you every once in a while, got to take that into account.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe for you it is. For me and I'm assuming for Max it wasn't either, because he didn't slave 24/7. He didn't hustle 24/7. Yeah. He slaved 9 to 5.
Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, business has some sacrifice. If you're in a position of like ownership or in any position where you have responsibility, there are days where, you know, you just have to deal with it. Like there are days I have to stay late. There are days that Tim has to stay late. Like we had an emergency one not too long ago, and we Pops and I worked on you were on vacation at that time. Yeah. So we had an emergency that we needed to finish by the end of the week, and so because of like other obligations at home and at church and stuff, we basically decided, Wednesday we're gonna do it. Stay late, doesn't matter. We're gonna do it. I mean, I got home at 1 a.m. So, but we did it, right? Yeah. So there's definitely, obviously, if you're thinking to yourself that like you won't have to sacrifice in any sort of ownership position, you're lying to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like that's without a doubt, that's the case. There's going to be hard times and there's going to be times where you kind of have to just deal with it. But at the same time, you also have to understand that there are lines that you can draw, and there are like ways of life that you basically can follow. You can set that for yourself. I think it's kind of interesting when it comes to working, as much as like when it comes to owning a business, because it's like, yeah, on one hand, I work more hours than I've ever have. Like I've worked more hours probably in the last 3 years than I averaged across 10 years or so, was it 10 years? However long it was, like 8 years of working in wholesale from that 8 to 5. But at the same time, I've never felt more free and more in control. It's kind of weird. It's like a weird catch, like 22, where it's just like, but you're working more. Yeah. And you're like,
but you're the man. And you're not working for the man. Yeah, it's a weird psychological thing.
It's a weird thing. It's like you have more responsibility. Yeah. You work more. Yeah. Like it sucks. Yeah.
But it's nice.
Yeah. It's like, but you're free.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Now, you asked something about employee.
Like taking care of employees and having them kind of at the forefront too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I believe in employee retention.
Actually, and how many employees do you currently have?
We currently have one, and so minus the three of us, we have one, and we're working on the second one right now to hire on.
Just had an interview.
Yeah. And like for me,
also time out. We've had in the past, just so that we kind of know that we're not just like we have one employee. That's all we've had. No, we've had 3 different employees prior to this.
Yeah. I thought like right now.
In our current situation, yes, we only have one employee.
Yeah, but like keeping your employees. I've had a job where it was crappy work because it was hard. And the turnover rate was super, super high. And, just the way that the business is, like, they're not going to pay you a lot of money to do the work. So it's like, I don't know, like chicken or egg. Do people not stay because there's not enough pay? And if the pay was good, they would stay even though the work was kind of sucky? Or did the pay not matter? I don't know what it was. But I've had a job where it was rough. I worked I think we averaged usually around 50 hours a week, and you'd be like under houses and crawl spaces and demoing. And I mean, for a young guy, it was kind of fun. But like from that, I learned you want to do things, especially if you get an employee that's good, you want to do everything in your power to keep that employee. Yeah. You want to treat them well. You want them to know that like, hey, I actually value you as an employee. You're not just a thing that gets something done and yay, it's better for business. But it's actually like, I appreciate what you do and you are important, because it's like the whole, like if you don't have a worker, then what are you doing? You can't function without employees. So you want to treat your employees as well as you can. I believe that 100%.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I never had employees, but I was a manager once, and I hired people on and like managed people, and like I was working for a big corporation, so there's very little that I could actually control in terms of like pay and benefits and stuff like that. But you notice that like people care about how you make them feel. So like if you make them feel appreciated, even if they're getting paid the same as another employee that's not as great, but if you're going out of your way to make them feel good and like seeking their opinion on things and making them feel like they have input, I think people realize that and people notice that and they want to cling on to that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, when you're growing, it's like as the owner, it's not like you're like at the end of the month it's payday or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to pay myself first, and then we're going to pay the bills, and then I'm going to pay the employee. Well, no, like you pay the employee and your bills, and you're last.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way that it has to be.
Leaders eat last.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we've had that where, we pay everything off, and we're like, okay, well, we're going to have to wait a few more weeks, like in order to pay ourselves, because there's just not enough. And that's another one of the sacrifices that you have to make.
Yeah. So, do you have something?
No.
So going back, I guess back to those first 2 years, you guys said there was a lot of cleanup to do. What did that look like? Were you guys just ripping things apart from day one, or I guess what were kind of your priorities going into that?
There was about 30 years worth of junk. Okay, so locksmiths are
hoarders.
Notorious hoarders. They are notorious hoarders. They will keep screw packs because I'm going to need screws. Like, go to Home Depot and buy screws, you weirdo. But it's a sickness. It really is. It's bad. Every locksmith, if you ever come across one, ask them if they hoard, and they'll say yes. If they don't, they're not a locksmith. But so we had to clean out so much junk, and we installed lights and put a ceiling in. It was mostly the junk. There was a mountain of it.
Well, okay, we had long discussions about what we were gonna do, because when we stepped in, we're like, more than 75% of this stuff is just scrap metal. Like, we need to get rid of it. So
the hoarder mentality, like, well, let's go through it and see if we can keep anything. You're like, stop it.
Yeah.
No.
So we definitely had a lot of conversation about what should we actually go through, what should we actually keep, and what should we actually throw away. And a lot of it basically boiled down to just prioritizing what's more important, prioritizing the business first. So, and a lot of our answers came while we were working. So, for example, the first thing that we did is obviously the shape of the state of the shop was claustrophobic. Everything was there was trash everywhere. There was
no
everything,
good display of product or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any pictures to bring, but also there were just walkways. You know how exactly like a hoarder's house. You know how in Hoarders or something you watch, and there's a little trail for the most important details, to get into the kitchen, to get into the bathroom, to get to the bedroom. It was basically that everywhere in the shop.
But with metal.
It was a customer-facing shop? People showed up to this place?
Yes.
And it was like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, actively like that. So there wasn't really anywhere to sit inside the shop as you walked in. There might have been one seat. They had hanging displays. And basically, they had about 4 by 5 feet of customer space, and it was filled with random stuff too, maybe one seat off to the side. And so the first thing that we did is we focused on trash, get rid of all the trash, right? So we tried to get rid of as much trash as possible. Then we cleared off one bench space, so that we can normally work from that bench. And from there, we just sort of continued piece by piece by piece. And then the conversations we had about throwing stuff away versus keeping and going through it and sorting it. As time went on and we got busier and busier and busier, the more we've kind of adopted this sort of policy of, if it's old stuff that we haven't really touched in a long time, we've got two options, right? Either we create a space for it because it's unique enough and special enough that we can eventually make some sort of money off of it, or we look at it and we think to ourselves, I haven't had a need for this in over 4 years, and I don't see a point where this will ever make any sort of financial sense to keep this on the shelf, and we just throw it out. Yeah. And then some things, like I said, it's just come over time. After since it's 2018, so we've been doing this 19, 20, 21, 22.
Gonna be year 4.
Yeah, about year 4. So we're coming on to year 4. At this point,
Or year 5, ending year 4.
I don't remember.
Math.
I can't do math.
Whatever.
Basic math.
That's why we're locksmiths.
I sit in an office. I count out money. And so we get to we've gotten to a point now where we can fairly easily recognize what's necessary and what's not. It used to be a lot of our mentality comes from wholesale. And so with wholesale, you have oh, this little screw is worth $1.50, right? So you know that it's a special screw. You know what it is. You know the part number. You're like, I'm gonna put that. Like I have a space for it, right? And you keep it. Now it's gotten to a point where I look at a screw and I'm like, I know this is $5 worth of screws. I don't know the next time I'll ever need it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to like that state, it's kind of like also like a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because now you're financially like you're comfortable enough to look at a product and be like, I don't have a need or a use for this. I'd rather use that space for something else. But at the same time, like you got to also recognize when you're just being,
wasteful.
Exactly, wasteful.
I'm more of wasteful. I just throw it away.
Yeah,
just throw it away. Victor's always like, no, we got to keep it. We got to keep it. I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
sure. In 10 years, somebody will come in and say, I need the screw, and I'll be like, oh, geez, 10 years. It took 10 years. Whatever.
So mostly,
bygones.
So mostly it sounds like it was just kind of getting the shop up to shape in the beginning.
Yeah. But, and then like, did we? I don't remember if we did, because they didn't do any automotive. So how did we push the automotive part of it?
They didn't do any automotive, and they barely did commercial.
Right.
So and some of their safe stuff that they did was always outsourced to family members on their end. Remember that as well?
Yeah. So I mean, that's. So we did have to build it up. I'm just trying to remember what we did or if we did anything. Like we didn't do any marketing. Like we didn't buy ad space or didn't put anything on bus benches or anything. So I'm just trying to remember what we did to get the ball rolling.
I can tell you. We cleaned up the website. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
We cleaned up the website, made it clean. We worked on a logo because we wanted just a plain old logo. We chose colors that we stuck to.
That took us too long.
Yeah, I remember that. That took a while. Now, after we did that, we created after the logo, we created business cards as well as we put them on the van.
Yeah, we'll put the logo on the van with the phone number. It's important.
Yeah. And then we've sort of spread primarily through word of mouth. We did pay for some Yelp advertising for about 9 months.
9 months too long.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Nothing came from it?
Well, it's... So the
Did we get sued for saying certain things?
Some may say about Yelp.
I've heard people say...
Yes, I've heard people say. I'm not the one to have said this, but I've heard people say.
It was. Let's just say it wasn't for us.
No, and that's the thing. Like the way that they functioned was basically they said that they would give us leads for a certain amount of money, and we basically took lowest tier option for advertising. And why we did that was primarily one reason: we didn't want other locksmiths showing up on our Yelp page. Because if you don't pay for Yelp, they basically will put ads on your page.
Yeah,
it's really anytime I'm on Yelp and I search a business, some other business pops up, and I look at that business before the one that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this is not kosher. I don't like this.
They're fairly scummy practices. Like,
I mean, even Google AdWords. Like, if you look up my company, the first 5 results are our competitors. Like,
right. That's right. And that's why I always ignore where it says ad. I just go nope until it's not an ad, and I click it. Just my own little rebellion.
Well, and that's the thing. Like with Yelp, one of the things that they had was Yelp has a maps feature. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Yelp has a maps feature, and this is what kind of pushed us over the edge to just cancel using Yelp. Period. But Yelp has a maps feature, and right just a block away from us is apparently another locksmith business.
Which doesn't exist. We checked.
Yes. The address doesn't exist. We sometimes get advertising mail in our mailbox because the mailman's like, oh, locksmith, I know where this is, right? And just drops it off. But that address doesn't exist, but it's a block away from us in the middle of the street. And so we kind of called out Yelp, and we're like, hey, why do you have false advertising on your stuff? And their response boiled down to, why are you worried about somebody else's business?
That doesn't exist, but whatever.
Yeah. And so they're like, we have a successful relationship with this company. And I'm just like,
What company?
What company?
like, I don't care that you have a successful relationship. They're enlisted in a location right down the block from us that doesn't exist. Like, and you're actively endorsing them and taking their money so that you can advertise in our place.
And for certain businesses, I'm sure Yelp works great, but for locksmithing, it's different. Locksmithing is a different animal because there's a lot of like scammer locksmiths they'll just set up shop and they'll just scam people out of their money, and they'll pay for all the ads. They'll pay for the Google ads, they'll pay for the Yelp ads. And then like as a legitimate business with a storefront and everything, then you're competing with people that just don't really care about any kind of business ethic, anything. And then you're like, well, and that's what we have to decide. Like, okay, so we need to, get word out. So we tried the Yelp thing. We're like, okay, it doesn't work for us. We're like, well, maybe we should do Google, like the Google AdWords. We never did. But then just like word of mouth look, East Portland is back because they used to do a lot of really good work. So a lot of people knew them. A lot of management companies and other businesses knew of East Portland Locksmith. So once word of mouth got out, we actually haven't done any advertising.
In fact, we've done the opposite of advertising.
We pay to not be shown in those games.
Oh no, this is real. We don't. We've actually had an awning that had our name on the awning, East Portland Locksmith, big letters, big bold, everything. We've taken that down.
Well, it was a terrible awning too.
That's not the point. The point is we've taken that down and we thought to ourselves, oh, we got to get quotes to get that replaced and all that. And so like we started to look at pricing for all that, and we just got busy. And to this day, it's been over almost 2 years now with zero mention of East Portland Locksmith on the building anywhere.
Yeah, the quietest we had it, and honestly, thank God, the quietest we had it was when COVID first kicked off. We had it quiet for about a couple of months, I think, maybe 1.5, maybe 2 months. Let's say 2 months, and we would still have jobs every day, but instead of having like including auto, residential, commercial, instead of having like 12 jobs a day, 13 jobs a day, we'd have like 5, 6. So we're like, okay, well, that's fine. We continued. People still lock their keys in the car. People still lose their keys. People still need their doors worked on because it's not locking. Mm-hmm. So we took advantage of it, and what did we do? What's it called? What's the word I'm looking for?
We caught up?
No. We basically like took turns taking an extra day off. So like 1 week, like we kind of did like I took a Monday off. The next Monday Max would take the Monday off. Next Monday Victor would take it off. Yeah. So we're like, okay, fine, that's cool. We don't we still got work. We're still making enough to pay ourselves, to pay the bills, everything. Let's
enjoy it a little.
Let's enjoy it a little bit. And then after that 2 months, it was like a rocket off to the moon. And then it's just been crazy since then.
Yeah.
So what, you also mentioned that there were like a few big customers that East Portland had before you acquired them. Did you guys keep those customers on, or what happened with those?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Some of them changed like ownership or whatever, or right.
There was one, of all the customers they had, they basically, their clientele, for their big customers, they were down to I think like 4, maybe 5, and we kept all of them but one. The one that dropped off went through a restructuring. They lost a lot of their property managers. They were a property management company, and they went through a restructuring, lost a lot of their clients, a lot of their property managers, and we've sort of kept up relationships with some of their property managers, and now we do work for them, but they as a whole have sort of shifted to a different direction anyway.
So we lost one, but we added like 4. So
yeah, but the beauty of that though is we grew the business to a point where we're very retail focused. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse. Blessing on one hand is because we are not constrained. We're not tied down to one customer.
Yeah.
There is no one customer of ours that exceeds more than 2% of our years, worth of business. So what that means is we're not at any sort of risk of losing.
Yeah, we're not at the mercy of one account where you lose an account and you're like, well, kids ain't eating today. Sorry. So yeah, that is nice. It's pretty spread out.
Yeah.
Where we have a healthy scattering of like automotive, commercial, residential, and the commercial ones. It's not where it's a giant chunk of our business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had customers that work with literally like one or two huge companies, and I'm like, I can't, like, you have to bend over backwards to make these guys happy. Like, if they want a discount, like, you basically have like, I can't imagine.
Yeah, that sounds that makes me nervous.
Yeah, that would scare the crap out of me.
So most of your current work is residential?
It's commercial, residential, automotive, some safe.
Yeah. It also depends.
Kicking up the automotive for sure.
It also depends on the day. For example, like Fridays, for some reason, automotive goes through the roof. Everybody needs their car for the weekend. But as for the rest of it, it just depends also on what's been going on over the weekend. Usually what happens in our current state.
Yeah. Portland's crime rate keeps us really busy right now.
Yeah.
Honestly,
So usually Monday and Tuesday, we're doing a lot of commercial work, repairing either break-ins, attempted break-ins, vandalism to locks, and that general stuff. And then as the week continues, we kind of have, other things interspersed, whether it's residential, automotive, all of that. I would say that right now, residential, automotive, and commercial are on fairly equal footing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They all sort of give and take on the day, mm-hmm. but overall they take up about the same amount of.
Are there certain ones that are more profitable, or does it kind of?
It depends. Sometimes automotive is really profitable because it's not labor intensive, right? So if you look at it from like a labor perspective, like I barely do any automotive. I do like 0.3% automotive. Because I'm more just commercial, residential. But sometimes I see like what Victor does. I'm like, well, that must be nice. You just, you go, you cut the key, you program it. Sometimes it's a hassle. But when it's a hassle,
yeah,
it's a hassle. Where, Max can attest to how they've been stuck with a car and it's just not working. And then, one job that Victor could be out there for a few hours because it's a German engineered car and they like to make it difficult. And I've already done 4 jobs by the time he's finished with 1. So sometimes it's worth it. And sometimes I'm at a job and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be here all day long. So it's kind of hard to tell. You don't know. It's kind of rolling the dice. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah. In some cases, it's a bit of a gamble. There's also some situations where you kind of have to read the situation. You have to read it based on the description that you're given. And you're sometimes given like really crap descriptions, like really bad descriptions of the situation. And sometimes I'm forced to be like, okay, I'm going to need you to send some pictures and some information. And what I'm doing there is not necessarily accepting the job, but I'm just kicking that conversation down the road so I can ask even more questions and pull more information from the situation. Because what happens is, let's say someone calls you, right? And they're like, my car won't start, right? I go, okay. Do you have your keys? What's the situation? Oh, somebody tried to break in and damage my ignition. Okay. How much for you to fix it? Right. And in that moment, it's like, I don't know. Besides you giving me the year, make, and model of the car, I don't know the extent of the damage to the ignition, right? And to that whole housing. And in some vehicles, it's very specific. And some vehicles require a lot of, they require extra information. Not to get too lost in the weeds, but just to give you an example. For example, if I have a Chrysler or a Dodge, right? And somebody said, oh, they tried to break in and tried to steal my car and they screwed up the ignition, right? I go, okay, well, send me some pictures because I need those pictures because of 2 reasons. Number one is if they just damaged the physical ignition cylinder, it's one price. If they damaged the little ring around the around the ignition, that's another price, and that's a significant difference. We're not talking like
$20.
Yeah, we're not talking like a $20-$30 difference. We're talking about a couple $100 at minimum, right? Because the moment that ignition's like ring gets damaged, which is the immobilizer ring, that's an all-in-one piece with the what's called the skim module on it, right? And that piece, that component, basically is all like has all of the key information on it, and you can't just take that off, put a new one in, and be done with it. That module itself is programmed to the vehicle by like a VIN number. So you have another curveball in that whole situation, and you're basically like, oh, you know, if they send you the picture and that's damaged, then I can have that conversation of like, okay, you're looking at, you know, $500, $600, $700 for the repair, as opposed to, let's say, like $195 for if it was just a little internal piece was damaged. They, you know, hammered in a screwdriver or something in there and tried to turn it. Totally, like, and then sometimes you don't know, like with that, you don't know how long you're going to be out there for. It's tough. Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you're there for 4 hours, but you're really charging only for 1 hour, 1 hour's worth of work, because it's like you're not going to charge the customer extra because the job is a little harder. Because like if the job is the job, that's how we charge. We're not like, well, I could have done it in 1 hour, but I did it in 4 because it was giving me a problem. Well, we'll charge you for the 4 hours. Can't do that, because then people don't call you back. That's bad business practice.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it's a lot of variables, a lot of new stuff every day, it sounds like.
Yeah.
A lot of variables. Yeah.
So what would you say kind of in the last 4 going on 5 years or whatever the math is, was like the biggest challenges or like realizations, whether it's in the industry or just in like being a business owner?
Heavy.
Can you ask that question again? Can you use it in a sentence?
What's the biggest challenges and hurdles to overcome?
I don't know.
Biggest surprises you had, or I don't know.
Like again, like the locksmithing industry is just, it's a very odd industry. So a lot of it is like you kind of like you have to be really flexible, and like how, you know, we started, and again, like you have an idea and you're like, oh, this idea does not work at all, so you have to change it. Like, okay, let's try it this way. Oh, this is not very good. And so it's kind of like, it's not like it's always hard, but you're always like, you always have to kind of be like on your feet. You always have to be able to like, you have to be able to pivot, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Well, before I got into it, I never like thought how it would be, because, you know, you think of a business, you're like, okay, well, we have an office building and you have your employees and they come in and like, here's like, everything is set. Like everything's just, you write everything in a mission statement and there you go. And here you're like, I'm learning how to juggle chainsaws. It's weird.
Here is the church. Here's the steeple.
Yeah,
Here's the people. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't even know how to explain it. Ask the question in a different way.
No,
so I can think about it in a
like
different
just
way.
having to be flexible, having to be able to pivot and make changes and split-second decisions, things like that. Like, I mean, maybe not split-second, but like being able to adapt, I guess.
Yeah, because like also like pricing, it's like you like with pricing, it's not like this is a standard, because again, like your prices go up. You're like, okay, well, our prices go up. You have to increase the price. You know, gas goes up a crazy amount. And you're like, well, I'm driving around all day, so okay, now like, do we raise our service call? Like, what do you do with that? Are people gonna like, hey, why is your service call more? And then yeah, it's kind of like there's a lot of movement. I'm sure other businesses have too. I just don't know, because I've only done this one. But I don't know, it's different.
I'm trying to think of something deep and like profound to say about, you know, the challenges I faced. I would say a lot of the challenges I faced is the realization that I don't have enough time for everything. That's probably been the hardest thing for me, because I've always, since working for someone and doing all that, you sort of, sort of just like take things one at a time and just take care of what you have to take care of, and you don't have anything else on your plate
and then you clock out and you're done.
Yeah, and you clock out, you're done, and then you're like sort of taking care of this aspect of your life and this aspect of your life. But with ownership, it's sort of you get a huge, especially like if you do something right. So if you do your job right, and people come to you, and the people are looking for you to do things for them, right? Like, I'll be honest with you, we have sometimes phone calls where they're like, I've called 6 other locksmiths. You guys are the only ones that will touch a Volvo, right? And that's a good feeling. That's a great feeling, right? But at the same time, I look at my schedule and I have 6 other cars lined up, right? For just today, not including tomorrow. And I have to tell this guy, look, how soon do you need it? Because I don't think I can get to you until Friday, for example, right? And they're like, well, this is my only car. I need it today. And here I am, like, able, like, to help, but I have to pick and choose what is more, of a priority. I mean, ultimately, money comes down to helping that decision. But like, we've been in situations where we're like, look, the only way I'm dropping 2 jobs and heading to you is for 200 extra bucks, and people will say, yes, fine. Do it.
Should have made it $400. Darn.
Should have made it more. But at the end of the day, that's kind of like the hard thing is having to reprioritize a lot of things, and like realizing that you've got 10 different things you need to do. You have time for 4, and 5 of them need to be done today.
I got one.
Yeah,
I got one. Knowing your value.
Ooh.
Knowing your value. That one is hard to learn, especially when you're starting off, because you're like, okay, like let's say there's a job, whatever, and let's say the job is $150, and then let's say it was really fast, and the guy's like, oh, that was really quick, and then you give him the bill, and he's like, oh, it's like whatever, it's $150 for this, and you're like, well, charging too much? Do I give this guy a discount? Or you charge too little because you're like, I know how to do it, it's easy, so therefore I should charge like a lesser amount, which doesn't make sense because you know it. Why? Because you have the knowledge. So it's like that weird balance of pricing your experience and your knowledge and making it fair, but also not basically not screwing yourself over by like either being the nice guy or just thinking that what you offer doesn't have value. Mm-hmm. Actually, to me, that one is hard to kind of like continually like, oh, well, this was easy, so you'll charge less. Yeah. But like they can't do it. Another locksmith probably wouldn't be able to do it either. So like knowing your own value in business is like, I mean, maybe others don't have this problem, but it's kind of a battle.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. I'm very weak when it comes to that. Because something is easy for me, I'll charge less than I should. Like there are times when it's just like I'll charge somebody $75 for programming a certain car that most other locksmiths can't do, and I should have been charging like $150, which is double, twice the amount of money. And I'm just kind of like, because I'm so accustomed to like, because to me it's like it's easy. I've cracked it. I figured it out. It's come on,
But you've cracked it because you attended classes and you did the research and you burned yourself a couple of times and yeah. Like there's situations like that where you then when you take it into account, you're like, I should have charged more. I shouldn't have sold myself short. I agree with that. Yeah, for that's for both of us. Like we struggle kind of with the same thing of know your value.
Yeah, because we don't charge by the hour. We primarily charge
by the job, basically.
Yeah, by the job. So a lot of ours is more labor focused. So that, because the way we look at it is the best way to explain that to a customer from our perspective is, look, if we've decided that this is the value of the job, and regardless of if it takes 4 hours for my guy to do it or half an hour, this is the value of the job. That way they don't feel like they're getting overcharged if it takes them 4 hours to figure it out. Right. And at the same time, they understand that this is a skill. And so when he does it fast, it's like wow, they're impressed. And
So good with the screwdriver.
Would you rather me hold you up for an extra couple hours to make it seem like it's
and I've wanted to ask that question before because
No, it's like they say the whole thing about like the plumber that comes to your house and banks something a couple times and fixes it in 2 minutes and charges you for an hour's worth of work. Well, you're paying for all the experience and all the years, and like you said, the classes, and
because you haven't had water for 2 days and you haven't showered yet, and now you're complaining that you paid the plumber $400 for fixing the problem that you couldn't. Yeah, it's like it's a mindset. You have to change your mindset. And again, it's not like I don't like it when there's like the business like minded people that are super aggressive. Like that's just not my personality. So that's why I struggle with the whole knowing your own value. It's because I'm not aggressive. I'm not like gonna like push and be like, rah, 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 rah. This is what it is. I'm more like, okay, fine. In business, that doesn't work too well. It's good because it makes you personable. People don't hate you. People don't feel like you're cheating them. But then it can come to a point where you're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
So that's my battle.
Oh, trust me. I mean, with my job, I have to negotiate contracts all the time, and like I'm also the nice guy. Let's make you happy. Like I'd rather be like, okay, let me get you a deal that will get this off my plate, and I can move on to the next thing. Yeah. But with some people, until they hear you say no, they're gonna keep pushing it, and they're gonna keep asking for more. Right. And it's like, you kind of have to set your limits and know the value like of what you're selling, whether it's services or products or
your time or whatever. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, or somebody's like, well, can you give a deal? And you're like, I can't, because then it's not worth it for me. Yeah. It's not worth for me to go out there for a couple of hours to give you a deal because I don't know.
Or they're asking for something that's unreasonable. Like I've had that where a guy brings me a car. It needs ignition changed. It needs door locks changed, right? And it's like in bad shape. It's been damaged. And I'm like, look, for me to do it right, you're looking at $250. I think that was the rough and dirty that we talked about. Look, I'm going to do it $250. He goes, will you do it for $100? I'm like, no.
That's quite a discount.
I'm like, no, I won't do that for $100. I'll bring you lots of business. This is one of my favorites. I'll bring you lots of business. I'm just like,
I hear that one too. I'll refer people to you. I have 3 people that I know that would love you.
Got a story about that one.
I know. It's like, bring me the business first, then we'll talk about, I'll do a rebate program with you. How about that? Yeah. But and then he's like, $100. I'm like, no, I'll bring you a lot of business. I'm like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. And then he's like, well, what if you do this? And he basically chopped out like everything that I was doing and down to just like making it work with basically a screwdriver, And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that for $100.
I'm not going to put my name on that kind of work.
Exactly. That's what it boiled down to. I was like, I'm not going to put my name on this, like on this junk that you did. And then you're going to tell people, oh yeah, East Portland Locksmith did this for me. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Either you take the $250 or like, get out of here.
Actually, and doing this, like being your own business where you set the prices and everything, it actually taught me something, because especially in the Russian culture, it's always, can you give me a deal? Can you give me a deal? Yeah. So what I learned, and I actually stopped, I never really asked for deals, but sometimes you're like, hey, well, come on, what can you do, right? I stopped doing that because if you're calling a landscaper, somebody to install an AC unit or whatever, and they give you the price, that's the price that they're giving you that they're saying that they're worth. So like public service announcement, don't be that guy who's devaluing their work because you want a deal. Also public service announcement, don't be the guy that says, I'll give you a lot of business. Because Max said no to that guy, but there was a guy that I said yes to. And on top, so I did the work. Well, actually, I came out there. He didn't show up. So I had to come back there at the end of the day. I did the work. He asked for a discount. I gave him a discount. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. Like it was close to my house. I'm like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And then he's like, well, can you just give me like a good discount? I'll bring you work. I do this. Whatever. I think whatever he was doing. And then I'm like, okay, fine. And I mean, this was early on. This was early on in the business. And I'm like, okay. Not once has that guy ever called us. And I'm pretty sure this was like year 1.5 of the business. Not once has this guy called me back or called us back for any more work.
Because of the quality of the work you did, Tim.
Could be. I did throw a rock through his window. I was kidding. But it's like, yeah, don't be that guy from like the consumer part, and don't be the businessman that, you know, falls for that. Because I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's like I think he's a developer or something. I'm like, oh yeah, well if he like builds houses or whatever, yeah, and not once. So don't be a sucker.
Well, you got to keep in mind too, like if this guy's gonna ask for a discount this time, you don't think he's gonna ask for a discount the next time.
And he's like, well, I'm a frequent customer. Can I have a frequent customer discount? And then you can never win. So again, know your value, stand your ground. The end.
One of the things that I do, what I tend to do is as a technical employee of East Portland Locksmith, I pull the employee card. I don't tell people I'm an owner. I don't ever like publicly try to advertise that unless I need that, right?
You don't want to be the man with the power.
Exactly. Sometimes what helps is a customer comes, oh, can't you do any better? I said, look, I like my job. I can't make that call. Right? I have to defer to 2 other people, right? Which is true, right? I can't make the call.
Because our prices they're pretty set. Like, I mean, you always play everything by ear anyway. Like if somebody comes in and you can tell that they're literally distressed because they like need a car key copy made, and like you can tell that they've been crying for hours, and then you're like, okay, I'll help you out. Yeah. But yeah, like we're that. I'm an employee. I can't give you a discount just because the guy's asking for a discount. He's really pushy, and you're like, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that at all.
I mean, there are times I've said that, and I've still given like $10 discount or something, you know, like on a bigger deal, because I tell them, look, I'm not allowed to give past a certain point. That's what I do, and that's what I stick to. I just say I'm not allowed to give past a certain amount, and sometimes I'll give up to like a $10 discount. Past that, I say, look, I have to check. I can't make that call myself.
You better be calling me if you're giving bigger discount than that. I want to retire one day.
I know. That's just funny because it's the same exact thing. Like, oh man, like I don't know. I'll take it to my manager, but if she says yes, and she's gonna ask for this, like, can you do this if you do this, and like kind of position it that way a little bit, even though I know like fair well that I can't give that discount, but.
Exactly.
You have to value yourself and your time. So
that's where sales comes into play, like we talked about in the beginning. Like you gotta know how to sell things. You gotta make the people feel like they've won something in some cases.
If they do earn it, I have to tell them I went through this step, and I have to go to this person. I ran up the ladder.
I'm gonna let you know.
And so they feel like I did them a huge favor, which I did, of course. Of course. But no, that's really cool. I think those are really big things people don't think about when starting a business. So that's really cool to hear. Did the two of you always kind of know like you'll go down entrepreneurship or business ownership, or like
all right, so
where did this come from?
Tim's gonna kick this one off because he's the most
we lost. I joined in. It was 2018, I think. So I was 28 years old. Mm-hmm. At 28 was when I came the closest to knowing what I wanted to do. That was literally it. Through my whole entire childhood. Oh, I want to be a fireman. Oh, I want to be an artist. Whatever. You have that whole thing as a child. Everybody does.
Unemployed.
Yeah. Didn't think of that one. And then you're going to school, and then I didn't apply myself in school. I was kind of like, this is stupid. What a waste of time. I wish I didn't. I wish I actually kind of took advantage of, just going to school and had fun with it instead of making myself miserable. And that was just annoying to think about. I don't like myself for that. But then, I went to college because I'm like, oh, well, you have to go to college because, you have to. So I went to 2 years of community college. Didn't even get a degree. Took just classes because I'm like, well, I need to take classes. Took classes that meant nothing. Didn't go to said classes. Then just had, got a job somewhere. Got a job somewhere else. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I never thought, first of all, before I met these guys, I didn't even know what a locksmith was. I didn't know that was a thing. That was not something that I ever thought about. I'm like, what do you mean losing your keys? Don't lose your keys. I don't understand. So for me, it was literally until I started doing this that I'm like, oh, okay. Like this is a trade. That's a legitimate trade that you can take literally anywhere in the world and you'll be useful somewhere. So if you're, 18, 19, 20 and higher. And if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, that's fine. I'm just like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Maybe not. But I'm okay with it now because I don't know.
It brings in money.
But yeah. It's... Max, share your story because you're just as a failure at school then, just as I am.
What are you talking about? Failure. Ha. Hey.
I'm pretty sure I barely graduated high school, but I did it. I have the diploma to prove it.
Hey.
Yay. Hey, I started strong in school. I had no problems in school.
You are the book smarts.
Yeah.
That would make me the street smarts.
Yes. Yes.
Depends on which streets we're talking about, but...
Beverly Hills. Carry on.
Streets. Anyway, made for the streets, right?
No.
Yeah. I see Tim walking the streets every once in a while.
Stop.
Anyway,
talk about your failure. Jeez.
Anyway, let's start with my failure. I mean, I was good in school. I had no problems with schooling and learnedness. But the only problem I had was with primary motivation. So like towards the end of high school, I really started to drop off in terms of education.
Like junior year,
halfway through junior year. So like I had a 4.0 average probably into junior year, halfway through junior year.
You even took AP classes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 1 or 2, I think, in junior year, and then senior year I had like 5. So I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't dumb and that's not right.
Oh, well, I didn't even know how to spell AP. Are you saying that I'm dumb?
No. That's not the right word I'm looking for. I had no problem with books, right? I could understand concepts very easily. Like school was not a problem for me. I had no real serious complications with learning. The problem that I had was primarily motivation. So like towards the end of junior year, I dropped to like a 2.0. No, time out. Yeah.
That's lower than mine.
2.0. And then senior year, I was at a 1.8.
Wow.
And then
didn't know that.
The last stretch was a 2.0 as well. So I basically like I fell from like 4.0 average to like a 3.4 or something. You know what I mean? Like it was still like respectable, but it wasn't like straight A student valedictorian level. I just started to completely like get lazy. And then I took it upon myself to pay for my first semester of college. I applied to and got accepted at PSU, and I was going to go for computer science major. And so I started off on like the undergrad stuff, and I came in at 8 a.m. To PSU. Took the max in. Why are you laughing already?
Because I know where this is going.
I took the max in at 8 a.m. I discovered within the first week, that they had a library, and I discovered that they had the entire Dark Horse comic book collection on hand.
The most expensive library in his life.
most expensive library card I ever owned. I basically, from that point on, I skipped all of my classes. I showed up every day. I left home on time, showed up to school on time, even early for that matter. Got to the library, sat down, and I read through every comic book I could get my hands on.
I at least went to my classes, most of them.
Yeah, I didn't. I would be reading a comic book, like, I don't know, like the Dark Horse has the Mask comic books, right? Much darker than the movie, by the way. If you ever read the comic books, way darker than the movie. Because the movie's like, oh, Jim Carrey being funny, right? But like the comic books, like, it enables you to fulfill your deepest and darkest desires. You know where that can go. So anyway, I'm like reading that.
Chocolate cake. Go on.
Right. So I'm reading the comic book, and then like I'm checking the time, and it's like, okay, I got 15 minutes till class starts. Okay. I got 5 minutes till class starts. Okay. Class started 5 minutes ago. Okay.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Time to go home.
Class is over. Okay. And it would proceed from that until like late afternoon. And then I'd just be like, well, my day here is done.
That's enough learning for the day.
Get back on the max train,
right?
and get all the way back home.
Yeah.
And then after that, after doing that for the first semester, I would basically...
For the full first semester?
Yeah, full first semester.
How many months is that?
I don't know, like 6?
How much is a
4?
semester?
Wait, is it 4 months?
At PSU, it's quarters, I think.
Or a quarter. What
Yeah,
is
so
it?
3 months.
3 months?
10 weeks, 12 weeks, I think.
Whatever it is, it's a long time just to sit in the library reading the mask.
It was at least 3 months. So I don't know if it was like a quarter or a term. I forget what the terminology is for what the amount of time that I spent there. But basically, whatever it was bad enough that a counselor asked to meet up with me, right? Because I was failing everything, obviously.
Did you like show up to take the tests?
No, I didn't even show up to the test. So like I basically got a message from the counselor. So I met up with them and I was like, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't have a desire. And basically I told him, look, if I do have the desire, am I still welcome back here? And he's like, yeah, you might be under some sort of like review or something like that, or like academic like
probation
of some sorts. But the door is open. And I took advantage of that and basically said, okay, then I will think about it and I will come back when I'm ready. And I left and I never came back. After that, I was like, I need to work. Dad was like, I need help in this business. I was like, whatever, I'll still make money.
I'll only work there for a couple of months.
Yeah, I'll just do that. And then that's where I got into sales. I got into like learning all these systems and programs and all that stuff, and kind of like being a jack of all trades, like answered any question and every question. Because I would work there and we had a sales guy that was like really knowledgeable, and everyone asked for him and everyone waited for him and everything like that. And then I got sick and tired of transferring people, and I was like, okay, he's on the phone right now. He's probably going to be there for like half an hour. Let's try to figure this out while I've got you. Let me ask all the stupid questions, all the dumb questions, get that out of the way until like a lot of these like terminology, a lot of the understanding of concepts and all that kind of like beat its way into my head. And after that, I just sort of like progressed. I don't think I ever got over that like laziness thing. I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but like for the first probably 5 years of me working at wholesale, I was like lazy. I genuinely was. I didn't really know what I was doing with life. I just kind of like, my goal in life was to work as little as possible, to do the least amount, to just live a good, like, fun life, you know?
That's how you came to business ownership.
And that's how I came into business ownership. Yeah. And then something shifted right around when I got tired of waiting for the guy. I got really good at answering questions. And then I got really good at selling stuff to people. And then I got really good at finding the answers for all that. And so like that, I think being good at something kind of inspired me to be even better. And then when we started this conversation about this opportunity, like, again, my goal was still like, I can work less, have more me time, have more free time, right? And then we got into it, and I sort of, I don't know, how long does that make me? How old does that make me when I stepped in? At 2018, I was 25, 26, 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
something like that.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say anymore about that. I kind of went on a tangent of my history.
Yeah. Basically, it's just kids. College is not the most important thing.
Yes. There's a thing on our podcast that everyone's basically a dropout that's been on here. So
yeah.
Well, look, I will say this. If you want an education, if you feel that you need an education, if you feel like you want to pursue higher learning, go ahead. That's not to say that you can't. I guess the moral isn't the fact that you can't make money without higher education. The whole thing is that it really depends on what your goals are in life too, and what you want to achieve. Because like, if you like to own a business, you don't need a higher education. To be certain things, you're kind of locked, and you have to get that education. You
Like
want
a surgeon.
Yeah, you want to be a surgeon? Too bad. So sad. You can't just practice on pigs until you get good enough for humans, right? You can't work your way up from there. So that's just the way it is. I'm trying to think. There's something else I'm missing. Oh yeah, like for example, also it's never too late to go back to learning, because my mom got her associates like in her 40s, so she came back to school from not schooling to become,
I don't know why she did that.
Yeah, I don't know why she. No,
But this thing of school makes me break out in hives. I still have nightmares about getting to a class and there's a test and I don't know what's going on. I have trauma.
Like, you have to admit there's something. You know what I find most interesting about a lot of the things that like I've learned is that no matter what you do, time passes. Like, time just continues moving forward. So regardless of you're like super like hyper type A focused and trying to achieve things and all that, like time's gonna pass, right? So it applies. I think that applies more to people who aren't type A personality, who are more like type B, where they're like taking the lazy approach, the hands-free approach. Like, you have to understand that time just continues to pass. So regardless of
yeah, so if you're not doing anything today, in 5 years you're not doing anything.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna start something, start it, because in 5 years it'll get you somewhere.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want to pursue higher education, just do it. Do it at your own pace. Do it at something that makes sense for you. If
just
you
get a good degree. Don't go just to like I went. I mean, you probably because you felt like you had to go. I felt because I had to go because that was just the cultural thing to do. Like, I mean, I didn't even think about going to like a trade school or something. I don't know why. I don't know what kind of counselors my high school had, but obviously not very good ones. I don't know what happened there, but like, yeah, like for me, I wasn't
college grads think they know it all.
So yeah, like I wasn't really self-driven. I like sold myself short. Thought I had to go to college, did that whole thing, but I mean, it worked out for me. It's not going to work out for everybody, but it's also not, whatever. It's everybody's story is different on how things happen. It worked out for me. It worked out for Max.
I mean, I think
Alex, I think he's a smart one here. You have a bachelor's?
Dropout.
You too?
Oh, man. Nice.
Oh, I thought you had a bachelor's.
Oh,
No, high school valedictorian, college dropout.
What? Valedictorian, really?
It was a small school. It was like 100 students, but
Oh,
it's like
that's still cool.
It's like being the tallest person in China, It's like, well, yeah, Ming, never mind. I'm gonna take that back. I'd like to retract my previous statement on Chinese height and
very controversial topics.
Edit that out.
we're gonna cut that for.
So the moral of the story is that you never woke up one day and thought to yourself, I'm going to be a business owner and I'm going to be a locksmith. It just kind of, but like, was there a drive to work for yourself at any point in your life, or did it just kind of happen?
I always thought it would be cool because it always like seems cool. You're like, you don't have to answer to a boss. You kind of make your own decisions or whatever. But I think everybody has that thought. I think everybody has that thought of like, oh, what would it be like to be self-employed or whatever? I had that. I never did anything to pursue it though. So like for me, the opportunity presented itself and I took it, but it wasn't something that I was like actively pursuing. So, I mean, I was like, my story is not the most, what's the word?
Exciting.
No, like uplifting or like triumphant or like, yeah, from the age of 8, I knew that I wanted to blah, blah, blah.
I sold popsicles to little kids. And
right, yeah. At 8 years old, I opened my first popsicle stand and now I own Kellogg's or whatever. Yeah. For me, it wasn't, that's not.
But it's cool that you don't have to be that to be a business owner.
Yeah. So another public service announcement is like, yeah, like that's very true because that's because personality and your character plays a giant role in just how your life shapes. Like again, in school, I never really cared about anything. I was like that annoying student that I'm sure my teachers were like, oh my gosh, I wish he skipped today. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. Whatever. So annoyed at myself. So like that didn't help me as I was like becoming an adult. Like that like attitude of like, oh, whatever, I'm not interested or whatever. Like that didn't help me. So like, first of all, if you are listening to this and you are like that, like change your mindset and change your attitude. Don't be that guy, because I was that guy and it sucks. Like it's not a good place to be. But there is something of like life can work out even if you're not kind of doing it by like the recipe of success, you know, of like either going to college or you had a dream since you were a child of what you wanted to do, or like all the things that you see or hear on like Instagram and TikTok and all that about like all the influencers and all the big business people that like to say like, oh, like this is just, I always knew. Don't be discouraged by hearing that. Be encouraged to know that me, as a young chump who didn't want anything to do with really anything of like learning or expanding myself, I was still able to figure it out. That's like, you know, that whole like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like, it's like, you always like, yeah, but that's for somebody else. Yeah, well, I'm that somebody else, because if I could do it, boy, everybody else is sitting pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of success, as much as people don't want to admit it, I think a lot of success comes from luck. I don't know if luck's maybe the exact word, but it's the situation. It comes from circumstance. It comes from just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, luck meeting preparation is like the formula for success, is what I've heard.
Sort of. Like I don't know if I completely agree with that too, because for example, if you look at our situation, right? I worked at a wholesale company. I wasn't making a huge amount of money. Like by the time that I quit, I think I was making maybe $20 an hour. Right. And that was after 8 years. You know, that was 8 years of like developing and like learning and all of that. And so like the future there for me wasn't much better, you know. I could maybe work a little harder, make some bigger deals, make some bigger sales, right? I could have kind of continued in that vein of things, but the outlook wasn't that much better in the field that I was in the position that I was in. So like I don't know that preparation like sometimes even enables you to get where you're going.
Like the preparation was your head knowledge, was everything that you learned. Like Tim was saying in the beginning, like everything you learned in those 8 years.
I guess it was unintended preparation. Unintended in a way.
Well, it's like you were more valuable than what you were getting paid for. Like the company wasn't like paying you what you were worth, because obviously you were able to just start off a business in a different practice, but using the knowledge and the value that you had that is bringing you more money now, right? Like, I guess everything leads to something in a way, is like the way I kind of see it. Like maybe like this one thing isn't going to bring you success in this one avenue, but you're going to use something you learn here to be successful here. And that's kind of the preparation from my perspective.
Right. I see. There was something that I heard that was along those lines of, it's like whatever, you know, like from your point now, look back, everything that happened in your life, there's a lot of like whatever point that you're in, you can do it kind of like you're kind of just like floating through life and you're like, oh, look, I'm using this stuff that I learned in the past. Or you could be living your life and be like, oh, I'm here. Okay, what can I gather from where I am? And like, okay, well, I can pick this up. It'll be more beneficial if you were able to be, I guess, present. Oh, sounds so Instagrammy, but just to be more present where you're at and be like, I could use this in the future. I never did that. So like for me, it's like for me, it was just like an unearned blessing, like the way that it worked out for me. Like, and also like just like support from my wife. My wife is like literally the most, it's like, it makes me embarrassed how supportive she is, because I'm not as supportive as to her as she is to me. like anything I'll say, she's like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. I think you can do it. It's like she's like my little personal cheerleader. She's really good at it. So like that part was great, because if I was like, hey, I want to do this, like, oh, you can't. You're kind of dumb. Like I'm like, okay, fine. Oh, I'll just keep going to work in a warehouse. So it's like the to your point, that's true, because it's intentional. It could work intentionally or unintentionally. The whole preparation, but it's better if you do it intentionally. Like even right now, whatever we're learning with, let's say business wise, and we're like, we don't want to do locksmithing anymore. Well, if we really pay attention to what we're doing and to like the little nitty gritty details, we can use that later in life instead of just kind of floating through.
No, I get what you're saying now about the whole preparation. I can see where you feel that way. Like I don't know if I still. I guess maybe to me it's sometimes we don't notice what we're learning in the here and the now.
Yeah.
Like we sometimes maybe either take it for granted or we don't realize that it's leading somewhere as well. Because like for me, I always look at our business situation and our financial situation right now and all of that as something that was just we just of circumstance. Like we happened to be in relationship with enough locksmiths that we stumbled into a situation where someone was selling one. Pops was interested enough in that to kind of present that idea to me, but not interested enough to go out on his own and to present that idea to me, and then in turn to Tim.
And I was sneaky enough to jump on the train.
Yeah, and in turn to Tim, and sort of like we were able to, working together, develop and grow and get to where we're at right now, where we're expanding even more and we're thinking about like pivoting into new fields. But it's just sort of like, it's definitely, sometimes I don't realize, or I don't know if it's necessarily preparation, right? It's sort of like sometimes it's just you're in the right place at the right time and you got to just accept it for what it is, you know? I guess the fact that I have all that experience and knowledge and build up, like, it's good.
I mean, it could. Well, the thing is, it could have went another way.
Yeah.
Because you could have been like, Dad, I don't want to do this. Like, I worked with you. I want to make my own way. You could have easily done that.
Yeah.
When I first heard of this, I was like, do I want to work with Max and Victor again? Because I worked with you guys before. I'm like, do I want to hitch my wagon to that again? Like, I'm making it sound like it was like abusive or something. No,
welcome to the Oregon Trail. Tim died of dysentery.
Dysentery. So like, yeah, so like I had to think about it, and I could have easily been like, no, because I was like, well, I could keep working where I'm working at H.E. Mitchell, and then in a year or 2 years, I can start my own locksmith thing. I can like learn there, and I can go out on my own. That was my thought, because then again, I'm not responsible for anybody else. I can do whatever I want. I can make my own decisions. But I chose to go to business with you guys. So I don't know. It could work out however it works out. It could have worked out another way. You could have said, "Go away, old man. I'm gonna make my own way," and I could have been like, "I don't want to work with these guys. I want to do it my own way. I want to make my own way," and we could have all been miserable.
Yeah,
but it worked out the way that it worked out, and it's great.
I could have been salesman du jour.
Well, what was key about like your
pun intended? All right,
that was good. What was essential to that story there?
I like the other one.
What you were talking about, you coming up as a salesperson, was that you were constantly trying to learn, and instead of just letting this other guy take care of all these people, you were asking questions, you were learning, you were growing up here, even if it didn't translate to more money at that time. And I think it goes back to like that point you guys were saying about time passes by, like whether you know you do anything with it or not. Like you could have just been complacent in that job, like you were for the first 5 years or whatever you were saying. You could have remained complacent and not grown in value, and you'd have been in probably a different position today than you were if you didn't invest into that. So I think like so many people out there are just complaining about the job they've had for all these years, and they're not getting raises, they're not, you know, moving their way up in the company, but they're not adding value to themselves or like becoming more valuable to the company or to just themselves to take other opportunities. So I think Like, I don't want you to discount that part in your story.
Well, I appreciate
No,
that.
right. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like, even if it's something small, that you're like, okay, well, I want to whatever learn a new language, and you spend 30 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. It's kind of that thing of like, you have the two lines, and then let's say you angle one line like 0.2 degrees, and then you go 5 feet, and you're like, it's the same, it's equal, nothing has happened. And then you go for 50 feet, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a giant divergence there, right? Yeah. So like think like, I'm 32. In 5 years, I'm going to be 37. That 37 is coming whether I like it or not. No matter what happens, it's going to be there. Then let's say die. But yeah, it's going to come anyway. So it's like, okay, am I going to do anything right now, or can I do anything? Is there something I want to do that in 5 years I'm going to kick myself if I didn't? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But that's like something that you have to think about. So if you're like, well, I don't know, like this is like scary, like I don't want to do this. Well, in 5 years, are you going to hate yourself for not doing it? Go ahead, try it.
I mean, honestly, I think the coolest thing about going out on your own is dealing with fear, frustration, like
uncertainty,
all of that. Like we're lucky that we have a mentor in my dad. Because he's
made all the mistakes that we can avoid now.
Yeah, I mean, he started 10 different businesses, right? So he's had some very successful. He'd had some where were not successful, right? Where he had to just leave it and just completely abandon it, and just give up on that. And the thing is, because of that, because of his sort of like guidance in that, like it's helped us a lot, because sometimes we attempt things that are way outside the scope of what we're comfortable with. And even if it's the only time that we ever do it, we learn so much from that every single time. I think that's the one thing that if someone's like interested in going out or starting something new or going out on their own, like you're going to have to really, like, no matter how confident you are, like I come off as very confident, you know what I mean? Like I know you probably, like, you've known me for over the years, and I'm not afraid to just sort of like blah and just be out there and just expose who I am as a person, all that stuff. But it's still, there's nothing quite like everything going wrong in a situation, in a job and all of that. And you're just like, you're feeling this strain eat away at you, and you're just like, I have to deal with this. There's nobody else that it falls back on, right? We have to deal with this. It's not like I can't just be like, hey, talk to my boss. You know what I mean? You get to certain situations and certain circumstances where it's just like, I got to face the music and I've got to figure this out. If it takes me all night, And then that's kind of cool on one hand, and on the same hand, it's scary. Like, so I like, if you're willing to face a lot of like your fears and you're willing to like put yourself through that stress, then you can have some really cool and exciting times. I don't know. Like, so I know that segued a totally different direction than what we were talking about. That's good. But like, dude, the one thing I will say, like, when it comes to business and like doing your own thing is that it's exciting. Definitely exciting. There's nothing quite like being, let's say, in a situation like this. Like a week ago, Pops was taking apart a Porsche computer out of like a 2013 Porsche something, right? It's a computer module that I've never dealt with, right? My machine, my tool that's supposed to do what it's supposed to do is supposed to work on it, right? I look it up. There's not really a whole lot of guidance on some of these things. And it's just like, here we go. Let's do it. Let's just wing it. We've gotten to certain points now where it's just like there's certain situations where there's no information in forums, like because we're a part of like locksmith forums and other guys will share information, all of that. There's no information in forums. We've called 4 other guys that are like electrical engineering, like diagnostic type deals that work in diagnosing issues on vehicles and stuff. And we're facing this issue. It's uncharted territory, And like when you get into a situation like that, on one hand, it's frustrating, right? Because you're just like, this was the worst thing ever. Like, I'm going to spend the next 8 hours working on this stupid thing, right? On the other hand, you've got like, you're like, okay, we've got to figure this out. This isn't like this isn't rocket science. This is something that man has created. This is something that we have to figure out. And this is something that we can solve. We have the tools, we have the technology. We just got to take the steps that we need to. Let's take it from this angle, from this angle, from this angle. And then there's nothing like the feeling of success when you have a situation or a circumstance that nobody else could have resolved. And then you just go, boop, and it works. And you just like either start a car or you fix a lock that like 4 other guys have worked on, you know? And you're just like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, knowing you don't have a boss to go to and say, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go take a vacation and when I come back, it's going to be resolved.
Yeah. And that's where if you're afraid of that, afraid of like, or even that, like the thing is, that's the success stories. But like, there's so many stories where we've come up to, like, we've beat our head against the wall for like days. And just like, well, let's call it a night. Let's give up. The guy's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm sending it to the dealer. Or, you know, I'm gonna just replace the door or something. And you're
Gotta
just
know
like,
when to fold.
yeah. And you're just like, I've spent
fold
12 hours on this job and I've made 0.
Yep, 0 doll hairs.
Yeah.
What's the craziest story you have
Oh my God.
from a job? Or
Gosh,
Let's talk about the door that Tim did.
We don't talk about the door. The door is off limits. The craziest thing. Okay. Sheriff lockouts are always like, you don't know. Am I going to get shot through the door while I'm picking open the lock? Am I not? I don't know. But,
Sheriff lockouts.
yeah.
Elaborate.
Like they have to, like they're getting evicted because like either somebody's squatting and the landlord, like the homeowner comes in and he's like, somebody's living here, or they haven't paid rent in 3 years. But the craziest one is a realtor calls, she's like, hey, I need to lock up this garage because there's a homeless guy that's living in there and I need a lock for it. So, okay. So I come out there and there's a guy in the garage and he's sweeping up. I'm like, oh, okay. She hired some guy to kind of like maintain the property while she's selling it. So I go in the garage and I'm like looking at the garage door. He's like, hey, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm like, oh, you're like cleaning up? He's like, yeah. I was like, I think he's the guy that lives in here. So, okay. So I back out of the garage. I wait for her to get to the house. So she gets to the house. We go over to the garage and she's like, you have to leave. You can't live here. Like, we're selling the house. This is not your house. You have to leave. He's like, I'm not leaving. This is my house. I live here. She's like, no, you can't be here. You're trespassing. You can't live here. You have to take your stuff and you have to get out of here. So he starts like confronting her. He starts like kind of going like, no, I live here. So he's escalating and he's approaching her. And like he keeps coming up to her and she keeps backing up. And so like in this continues where he won't like, and I'm just kind of standing there like, what do I do? This is new to me. This is a new situation. So he keeps approaching her. She keeps backing up and he keeps kind of raising his voice. So I'm like, okay, I'll be the hero, whatever. So I'm like, okay, dude, like I get in between them. I'm like, you have to go back into the garage. He's like, okay, whatever. So he goes back into the garage. And then, so she's kind of like freaking out. I'm like, okay, well, let's call the cops, I guess, you know, or whatever. Like, I think I had to like fix a door on the inside. So we go to the front door. She starts unlocking it. He comes back out. And again, he's like, I live here. And he's escalating again. So she's trying to open the door. She can't get the key to work. So she's like freaking out. And I'm just standing there. I'm like kind of in between them so he doesn't attack her. Because like to me, like he doesn't do anything to me. He doesn't look at me. He doesn't approach me. It's all about her. So we finally get in. She closes the door. She locks it. He starts banging on the door. He starts walking around the house. He's banging on the windows. He's like putting up boards on the windows and just walking around yelling and just hitting everything. So we call the cops. And this was like, what year was this? This was like where just everything was even crazier. So she calls the cops. It took the cops, it actually didn't take that long. It took them about 15 minutes. It took them about 15 minutes to get there. And then, you know, the cops were like, hey, what's going on? They're asking questions. They're actually like, I would have handled it differently, but they handled him really well. They de-escalated the situation. They like talked to him calmly. Like he refused to leave still, and then like I did my job, and then I left. And then like as I'm driving, I'm like, this could have played out really differently. Like if he was not right in the head. I don't know if he was high or if he has some sort of mental thing going on. But if he was on some sort of drug or if he got violent, like what, I'm not going to let him just like attack her. Like I'm going to have to get involved. So like that was kind of like a I don't know, like a dawning moment of like I have to be careful.
Yeah.
Like on houses I go to, like these lockouts or whatever, like we have to be careful on like when you're talking to the person, okay, do they sound shady? When you go to the house, kind of look at the house, like is it run down? Is the person twitchy? Or like I'm like, okay, I can't just go places like I'm just here to do stuff. Yeah. Because that was like, he could have easily, you know, gotten something from the garage and started chasing us with the bat. So that was like, I don't know, that was surreal. Because I don't know, I've never been in a fight before in my life. I've never had these kind of confrontations with people. And then like, here's this guy just saying it's his house and getting all crazy. And yeah, that was fun.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, that was stressful.
Yeah. I think also we get lucky, like so to speak. We have certain jobs that we get more of than others do. Like Tim, for some reason, gets called out to all the porno stores.
Yeah. I see things that I'm like, is that legal?
So like
that's weird.
Any adult video store, for some reason, it's been Tim has taken that call for some reason. Like,
I'm not asking for it. It just kind of happens. It's just
you just get lucky.
It's just or whatever if you want to call it that. I wouldn't.
Like he's had that. I've opened the door for I think 3 dead guys. Like I had either a family member call me to a wellness check and the cops were there involved and stuff, and I'm opening the door, or I had a tenant that was not paying and they're not sure what happened to him, and I open the door and he's dead. And it's like 3 situations like that. I don't think you've had one, have you?
No, I just had the old lady who fell down and her daughter didn't have a key to her house. So I opened the door and her mom was basically laying on the ground all night long. She was like an old lady.
Dang.
And she's laying on the ground and her daughter's like, she's crying. Like she's like she can't pick her up. So I'm like, okay. So like I pick her up and I put her on the bed and then like, you know, I'm done. I'm driving. I'm like, what does that smell? And I looked down, and while she was on the floor all night, she relieved herself. And while I was picking her up, because I was picking her up from behind, it got all over my pants. I'm like, I should go change probably. So yeah, it's interesting. Victor had that one guy or that house where he was picking open the lock, and he can't turn it. And then they're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Let's try the back door." And they go to the back door, and the back door is open. They're like, it wasn't open. So it turns out some guy was standing there while he's picking it and holding the lock, so he doesn't open it. And from that, when he said that, I'm like, anytime it's that kind of situation, I pick to the side of the house just in case there's that. Because I'm like, I don't want to get shot today. So now I'm like really careful because I just don't trust anybody anymore.
Yeah.
There's that.
That's brutal. That's definitely not fun.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting, but you're kind of like, man, I don't know.
Exciting in the wrong way.
We worked. We had one job for a safe for like 3 or 4 days at an adult film store, and so like
3 or 4 days, huh? That took a while.
More than I can say for some people, you know. But like I'd show up, and like for the life of me, the one thing that made me laugh every single time was like, I'm like, oh, I just hope I don't see anybody that I know. Yeah, just like, uncle? On the off chance, like either they're coming in or I'm going out or something like that, where it's just like, please don't see me. I don't want to have to explain this is a job.
I always walk with the work clipboard. So I'm always working.
Well, it's like we have the vans. It's obvious that it's a job, all of that. But
I don't care if I'm seen. It's more of like if you see somebody you know and you're like, hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't want to have that awkward conversation like, hey, so Alex, I noticed you were in the...
I kind of do. It'd be fun.
No, they're probably also working on something there.
Yeah.
Probably the electrical.
Whatever, podcasting or
It's a side gig. It's a side gig.
but yeah, I mean, it's like exciting, interesting stuff happens.
Yeah.
It does. Sometimes it's like it's dangerous where again you don't know, but comes with the job.
The like I've had the similar situation, like sheriff's lockout, cops are on site, and like the homeowner's there, and he's telling me to go rekey the locks, and the guy is standing in the doorway, like just standing in the doorway. And I asked the cops, I'm like, can I go past? And they're like, well, we can't tell you what to do.
Yeah, it's a weird situation.
Okay. When it's like squatters' rights and like weird things, like it's not very clear sometimes. So like I'm standing there and he's not getting out of the way, and the cops aren't like helping me or like doing anything, and I'm just kind of like, I can I go in? And they're like, well, if it's your choice. I'm just like,
can I have a gun?
and I walk up to him and I go, excuse me, and I try to like get past him, and he just won't move, and I'm just like, I have to, the other guy, the homeowner, just like walks in, kind of bumps him as he's walking in, and then they start like like arguing at each other and like yelling and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to change the locks. I just work here. Please don't yell at me.
Those can get shady quick.
Yeah. Also, the other ones are like we get a lot of situations where I've had some situations where it's just like, I don't know the whole story here, and I don't want to know, like you show up to a car and it's just, you can tell that this may or may not be someone's car. They have the keys. They're just looking for another key or something. You know what I mean? But it's just wrecked, trashed, and you're just,
yeah, if it smells weird, it's usually you're like, I have to go.
Yeah, like I swear that I picked up ringworm at work. It's disgusting.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
sitting really close.
Okay,
to me.
no. We're gonna cut this one out. But like, you know what ringworm is, right?
Not really.
It's not actually a worm.
It's a fungus. It's like a fungus on your skin.
Yeah. It's like athlete's.
Yeah.
It's like athlete's foot, but on your skin.
Okay, yeah.
Usually, it's spread through contact with someone that's, or like with someone or something that's already got that like ringworm and fungal bacteria or whatever it is. It's fungus, right? And so like, I know I've been in some nasty cars. I've been in some nasty houses. Yeah, like we do rekeys also for hoarders. I've seen some hoarders. I start to open the door. I can't get it more than like 15 degrees open. Like that's not like nothing. Like I can barely squeeze in, and it's just like you poke your head in, and it's just like the smell just.
Yeah, and the smell kind of sticks on you, so you're sitting in your van and you can still smell it, and you're just like, oh dear. And then you have to go to somebody else's house after that too, and you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Nice.
Also, since we're like gonna cut some of this, like I was saying, here's a cool example. Here's a freaking awesome example. Early 90s to late 90s, Mercedes did a special type of security system that is very difficult to program. So the way that I'm going to go into the weeds just a little bit with you.
Nerd.
So the way that Mercedes systems work is that they have 10 slots for vehicle keys, right? So they have 10 positions for keys and programmed keys. And so what they do is if you lose a key, what Mercedes does is they send you the next key in line, right? They cut it and it's already programmed. So when the key shows up, all they do is they stick it in, start it, and it's good to go by VIN number. The problem is nowadays that the old 90s Mercedes systems, Mercedes stopped making the keys. They stopped supplying the remotes. They stopped doing everything. So if somebody has, let's say, a 95 chipped Mercedes, like SL 500 or something, or 550, they can't get keys. So if they've lost the key and they can't get keys from Mercedes,
what do you do?
What do you do, right? They'll start calling locksmiths. So what we've done before, and this is an awesome job. Like there's such a good feeling about it when you tell a guy, okay, $700, right? Book, that's not bad money. That's really good money. Like $700. I show up on the site. I have to pull a module that's about this big, right, out of the vehicle. I open it up, and there's a 64-leg processor. You know what the microprocessors, what they look like? No?
Is it like a motherboard?
Yeah. Okay.
Just picture a motherboard, close enough.
Picture like a motherboard device, like a chip, right? And it's got 64 legs all around, and it's small. It's literally like this wide, right, and this tall, and it's got 64 little tiny legs all around it. And you have to take a hot air gun and some solder stuff and whatnot, and you got to hot air that sucker off, that little tiny device, while not damaging any of the components around it or soldering off the other components, right? And so like you take all of that off, and then you have to resolder all 64 legs to a special board that is able to read the information off of it, right? And while you're soldering there, the problem is you add a little too much solder, you start jumping the pins, and they are tight. I'm talking like I can barely see them with my naked eye, and like you make connections accidentally, and so you got to clean all that up. And it's like you can spend. I've spent like 2 hours on the very first one. I think we spent like 4 hours working on this thing, right? And we're just working out these little soldering things, and we finally get it. And you read the information, and then you read the information again because you want to make sure to compare it and that it's reading consistently the same thing. Once you read
the chip is connected to something from the car to read that information? Is that
no, to the computer. This is separate. This is off the car. The module's been pulled. I've desoldered that thing off of there. I've soldered it to a computer thing, it's hooked up to my USB, and I'm reading this off the computer. So I read the information off the computer, and I read it twice. It reads good. I'm like, yes. You know what I mean? We're on track. All I got to do now is drag this information into a software program that what it does is it decodes and it figures out where the key information is, and it creates that information, is able to decipher it and to write that information onto a key, right, to make it ready. I drag that file, drop it in, file not recognized. It's like, oh my gosh, file not recognized. What do I do? You know what I mean? So you're like, oh crap, what do I do? There's like 6 different machines that do the exact same thing. And I've got like 4 of them. So I pull another one, I drop it in, file not recognized. I pull another one, drop it in. It doesn't even support that file read. You're like, oh crap. Finally, you start looking on forums, looking on that, and it's not a clear answer anywhere, you know? Finally, you ask the question in the public forum somewhere. One guy responds. He responds directly to you. He goes, hey, what are you using? What tools are you using? Oh, I've noticed that it only works with this tool. I have this tool. Great. I start doing it. It's an additional paid software thing. Oh, frick. Okay. Finally, we order the thing. It's like $200 or something for the software. We get the software. We've been working on this project 3 to 4 days. Guy's been calling almost every day asking about the status, right? And you're in this weird limbo where you don't know if what you've bought is even going to freaking work.
After 3-4 days.
Yeah, after 3 or 4 days. So you finally get it. You're just going off the word of some rando dude on Facebook forum.
Who could be a salesperson for
Exactly.
A scam.
And you finally you drag it in. It says it works, right? And you go, oh, great. We have a file. We write that information to the chip on the key. We get that ready. We desolder that 64 legger. We solder it back in. And by the way, if you didn't take a picture of the position that it is, then you're stuck going, oh crap. You got to figure out which way it was. You solder that all together, and we solder it back together. We plug it into the car. We put it in the key. We go to crank, and it doesn't crank.
And it blows up.
No, it doesn't crank. And you're like, oh, I've been doing this for almost a week straight, you know? Or like the stress level, every time something goes wrong, the stress level of this situation rises, and you think that it's, you know what I mean? You're like, it's not going to work. I've wasted all this time, right? And so you're like, oh, no, it's not working. We're talking to Pops. I'm like, I don't know why it's doing that. And then it says safe on the front of the dash. You're like, why does it say safe? You start looking through owner's manuals of those same years, right? You finally figure out that the reason it says safe is because it's a key issue. So you're like, no, so the key's not programmed right. I don't know. Pops takes it out again, looks through all the solder joints, resolders everything, plugs it back in, and finally it starts. That relief you feel after like a week or this long project that you've been
just put in time, labor, and that thing. We made $13 off of that job.
Yeah, like the first Mercedes that we did of that nature, we didn't turn a profit. Like we lost money, right? The thing is though, after that, you know it works. You know what I mean? Like the next 97 SL 500 that calls me, I can be like $700. And I know that it's going to at the very least take me half the time to do that job.
So moral of the story is don't be afraid to take on a new, what's the word? what's the word I'm looking for?
Challenge.
A new challenge, because if you figure it out, it could be a good money maker.
Yeah, I don't know why you assume that's not going to be in the podcast, but.
Oh, great! I'm giving away secrets. Am I giving away secrets? I didn't tell anyone any tools. I don't tell them anything. I just told them that solder work.
Go to the forum and they'll find out the tools
Go to the forums that I'm a part of, and you'll find out. But like, little do you know, though, the funny thing about that is that, and then the worst part about, actually, the funny and the worst part about it is 2 years later or 2 months later, a new tool comes out that doesn't require you to remove the module.
Always.
And so like, imagine you've figured a problem, you've solved a problem, right? Like, and you used to charge $700 for it, and now like the next idiot is doing it for $200. And you're just like, what? Like, what am I gonna do with my life?
Yeah.
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 So there's stuff like that.
Lots of fun stuff.
Oh man.
I don't have the patience for that. If something isn't going right for 30 minutes, I just
burn
like
it, torch it.
I'm like, that's it. Like, you don't know how many little challenges like that I've had with like starting to figure out how to record this stuff and how many things I scrapped and just stop. Like, nope, I'm just not like, I'll just future Alex will figure this out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that where you're doing it and you're like, oh, it's not working. Okay. And then you do it a billion times. And then the billion and first time is where it works properly. You're like,
yeah. And then to give credit where credit is due, my pops, my dad, the third co-owner here, he is the one that's totally not afraid of anything. Like any challenge. We'll be at a project for 4 or 5 days.
We'll get it done in 2 hours, 14 days later.
Yes. He's just...
But we got it done.
Yeah, he's not afraid to do it. He's not afraid for us to try it. Sometimes we have to pump his brakes and we say, no, we're too busy. We can't take on some weird project that we don't know anything about. And then there's other times when we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it out for the first time ever and see how long it takes us.
That's awesome. It's good to have something like that.
Yeah.
In the back corner. So what's you mentioned you're hiring and you guys are looking to expand. What's the future? I mean, out of how much you're willing to share, like what's the future look like for East Portland Locksmith?
Buy out all the locksmiths on the mall. I don't know.
It's gonna be like the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because it's kind of like, again, locksmithing is weird because when you think about it, when you're hiring somebody and you're teaching them to be a locksmith, you're teaching them things of like, hey, here's how you can get into a car. Here's how you can get into a house. Here are the tools to do said things. So it's kind of like, it's not like you post for me, it's not just posting an ad and be like, who wants to be a locksmith? Because I don't know, it's weird to do that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, for maybe I overthink it. Maybe
you want to vet people out a little bit more. You want to vet people out? Yeah,
like maybe I'm in the wrong, but like, because I know locksmiths will post, whatever, like, hiring, but I don't know. It's like, to me, like it's hard. It's hard to hire somebody to be a locksmith.
The funny thing about that is that I was talking to somebody and she said that it used to be back in like the 70s and 80s and whatever that locksmithing was considered a prison trade, a trade that you learned in prison.
What?
So that upon release you could be a productive member of society.
That's backwards.
Back in the when?
That's
back in like the 70s and 80s.
So backwards.
That's a thing.
That was a thing. A locksmith was a profession for...
Like you learned how to break into people's houses in prison.
Exactly.
So when you got out of prison, you can break into...
You can be a productive member of society by learning how to get into people's houses.
Robber? But
anyway.
Yeah, so yeah, it's more like, I don't know, I don't know. It's odd. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm crazy? Am I overthinking it?
That it's a weird gig?
Well, that it's like you don't want to just hire anybody or just like, oh, we need a guy. Oh, this guy, yeah, and we'll just train him. I don't know. It's like you want to just peek into the future because it's like, again, it's like people, there's a lot of trust that people put in because you're literally, so you go to a house, you're making them a key. And so now you have a key to their house. What's my favorite is when people are like, oh, can you install this, keypad deadbolt, and you install it and they kind of hide the code from you. And you're like, I don't need the code. It's like, yeah, whatever. But it's like, again, like people put a lot of trust in what you do. So like, you don't want to break that trust by like, oh, we need to hire somebody because we're busy. So let's just hire Joe Schmo. And then you're like,
and then you regret it. And
then you regret it because your customer's like, hey, I have stuff missing and you were out here last week. You're like, what?
Yeah, you put your name behind it.
Exactly. So yeah, hopefully this we got somebody and think it'll be good. That can kind of relieve a little bit of our burden because it's busy right now. So it'll be nice to have somebody else out on the road.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hiring is definitely harder to do. I think for locksmithing also is because you also want people that are, because a lot of what we do is very much in gray areas, like especially when it comes to the auto side. I don't think it's so much in the commercial and residential side, because like commercial residential is more like, hey, come into my house, do all this. And then I've had actually, in regards to what you said, dang, that was loud.
That was pretty loud. Yeah.
In regards to what you said about that was also loud. Yeah, in regards to what you said about trust and people hiding things, what I've had somebody ask me before about that. They're like, what's stopping you from getting into my house? And I'm just like, well, if
you guys to trust me,
I'm just like, well, if you, I always say the following. I say, if
you can't trust your locksmith, who can you trust? Well, that's what I tell customers.
You say that. I always say, if a locksmith has to resort to crime, he's not a very good locksmith.
Yeah.
But it's a gray area, because even like a lot of what we do is like, even for cars, like remember that what I told you about Mercedes? Like Mercedes doesn't like the fact that we can do that. They're constantly innovating and updating a lot of their software and their technology and their security so that they are the only ones that make keys and provide keys for their customers' cars, because then they can track that information and they can also ensure that it's going into the right hands.
Well, also charge you double, triple what we would charge.
And keep the money for themselves. Like, so what we do is we're fighting like on different fronts. Like I know that some locksmiths are really into the whole right to repair movements and whatnot, because that overlaps in our industry a little bit. And some of it is hacking. Some of it, they work with hackers overseas and whatnot to crack systems. Some of it's also China and like copying of tools and equipment and copying of like different software and stuff like that and copyrighted material. And so like, you have all this weird like software gray areas as well. Like in some cases you're just like, I don't care as long as it works, right? But then in some cases there's weird ethical gray areas with our industry, which is really cool because you get to have that little moral dilemma every once in a while. But it's also kind of annoying because it's just like sometimes you're not sure like what's the right way to proceed. Because like I get, like for example, I get a call, I get a guy showing up to the shop on a vehicle, right? And he's like, I need you to repair this ignition. I'm like, all right. I come out there to look at his ignition. The ignition has been torn from out of the column, completely ripped out. He's starting the car with a screwdriver, not a screwdriver. This guy was starting it with the hot wiring method. And I look at that.
Red flag.
And I'm like, do you have any proof of ownership? He goes, no, I just bought it.
You just bought it like that?
Yeah, you just bought it like that. Yeah, somebody attempted to steal it from the lady that owned it.
Was it you?
Asking the hard questions.
Yeah. And the thing is, the car's not like great. It's like an early 90s vehicle. So it's just like, this is totally could be valid. Totally could be valid. He's got a bill of sale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What do you do?
What do you do? Like, do you just say, no, I'm not going to take this job. I'm not going to do it. Right? Or do you do it knowing that this could be a stolen vehicle? Right? And so you're in this like this weird gray area where the dealer has it very simple. You know, they're like, nope, it doesn't match. We can't touch it. We're not going to work on it, period. Right? But we're not as big as the dealership, and we're also still growing, and we still want more business, right? So we're just like, We're in this like
you also don't want to say no, and it turns out it is his vehicle, and then you're the jerk.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, yeah.
And then also there's situations where someone brings us a safe and they're like, I need you to open this safe. Right. And you're like, what's in it? Because that's a question that's really weird, right, to ask. But at the same time, it's like, I need to know that you haven't stolen somebody's stuff. Like if you brought me a hand safe, like let's say you have a little small safe where you keep valuables in it, right? And you brought it to me as a locksmith and you're like, can you open this for me? I've lost the key or the combination or something.
Yeah, and how do you prove it's your safe?
Yeah. Like how else do you prove it? Like you don't have a receipt, right? I'm not going to like, especially if you like it's covered in dust. It's over like 10 years old. And it's just like, I have to go off of someone's word that it's their safe. Like I've had a situation not too long ago where they brought in a safe. They're like, there's a gun in this safe. Can you open it for me? I'm going to get rid of the gun. And so it's kind of like, okay, you know that there's a gun in there. That tells me that, okay, you kind of know what's in the safe. So you may be the owner of the safe, but that doesn't prove anything at the same time. Like you could also just know that there's a gun in there, right?
Yeah, you just shake it. Sounds like a gun. It's a Beretta.
But like, and you have these like weird areas. So yeah, I think going back to the question, sorry, I rambled on there for a second, but like going back to the question that like hiring and expanding is a goal of ours, but we're very particular when it comes to hiring. Look, I don't want to hire just anybody off the street, train them up, and then just let them loose on the street as well, right?
Right.
I want somebody that...
It's almost like headhunting is almost the best situation where you take them from another locksmith and say, we'll pay you more. Because that way, they have a history. They're still a locksmith, and like from a reputable one especially. Because it's hard.
Yeah, and like honesty is a tough one too. Like we're so in people's, like we're so about people's security and so about like making sure that everything's done right. Because like I've heard stories, even so when I was in wholesale and I talked to other locksmiths, I heard stories from them about how they had employees that what the employees would do is come out to a job and say, oh, the customer canceled the job. And then the employee would come back after hours to do the job and collect cash.
Yeah. Or you could be like, oh yeah, the job was $200, but they charged them $250 or something. And
pocketed the
50.
Like said, oh, cash only.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust involved in it. It's because, a lot. Because you're giving somebody a lot of free reign. Because you're like, here's a van, go to people's houses, and you're charging them accordingly. And you're being honest, right?
Yeah, because I've been to job sites. I've been to job sites before where somebody's come up to me and be like, how much did you say? I said $250. The work order says $250, and he goes, what if we do $200 cash? You don't tell anyone that you did the job, right? Like that's tempting. Like for some, like tempting, especially if you work hourly. Like, come on, 8 hours at $20 an hour. You're still at about 160, right? That's more than a day's work.
Yeah.
Just to close your eyes and pretend like something went away. So that's where it's tough. That's where it's like it's hard to vet certain people. That's why we're very picky in particular. But at the same time,
I almost didn't hire Max.
almost. Luckily, I convinced him. Like my goal for my personal goal, I know that it's different for all of us, so we kind of have to compromise and figure out where we're at. But like my goal for the future is to get to a point where our business runs outside of our involvement. Us. Yeah. Because honestly, what I value right now more than anything is my time, and what I value more than anything is like where I can focus that time. So I see a lot of the work that I do. I'd rather us make less, but we have more time to kind of focus in on things that are more important, and maybe different avenues and different ways we can expand on. Like I personally want to get more into like development and larger projects in terms of like investment projects, as opposed to just working day to day, trying to make this business happen. Like, don't get me wrong, the money is good, but it's very dependent on presence. So like we have to be there, we have to be working as hard as we can, and that's the only way that it keeps moving forward and we keep making money. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, I appreciate it. I learned a lot about the locksmith business.
You looking for a job?
You don't trust me. I wouldn't trust myself if I were you. And I never knew how dangerous the job could be.
I didn't know either.
That's yeah, really interesting stuff. Well, I mean, with you guys here and you guys being co-owners, do you guys want to take a couple minutes or 30 seconds to plug your business? Tell people how they can find you if they have any locksmith needs.
Please don't call us. We're very busy.
Actually, we were looking at expanding the module thing. Send your modules in. We'll work on it and ship it back to you.
Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you? Come on, guys. I'm trying to feature.
If you want us to experiment on your stuff, feel free to send it in. After I told them the story about the programming of the Mercedes.
If you want a job, it should be 2 hours, take 2 weeks. Call me.
East Portland Locksmith. We're in Portland, Oregon. So if you're in Houston, don't call us because we won't come out.
We need to pay you enough. Is it possible?
You're gonna have to pay me a lot of money.
There's surprisingly a Portland in Texas that we have received at least 4 phone calls from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're telling us the street, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah. Where are you?
They're like,
Portland. Portland where? Texas.
They're like, I'm by the Waffle House. Waffle House.
What's a Waffle House? Yeah, just East Portland Locksmith. I don't know, like how do you plug a locksmith thing? It's not like you can't go on our website and order something. So.
What's your website?
What is your website?
www.eastportlandlock.com.
www. Hate when people say that. Put the L in there.
Our Instagram handle is at. Just kidding.
Do we have an Instagram?
I think we do. I think we technically do.
We don't post anything on
So
it. We're too busy.
We really don't work it. As what it says.
That's what I'm saying. We don't do any marketing or advertising.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're in a great position. I hate to say it, but if you are in need of answer, like if you have any issues or questions regarding your locks on your houses, commercial spaces, your cars, when it comes to your car keys, when it comes to your remotes, when it comes to your safes, we can at the very least point you in the right direction.
Service at eastportlandlock.com.
503-232-4363.
That's all I was looking for.
And it's lock, singular, not plural.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
Everybody always puts locks in it, and then the email never sends.
Seems like an oversight on whoever set up the website.
Alex is probably going to be editing this down, going like, "Oh man, these guys talk way too freaking much.
Idiots!
How did they become business owners? If they could do it, anyone can do it." Literally,
there's the title of the episode. If they can do it, anyone can do it.
That would be hilarious. I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't even be mad. Yeah, if they can do it, so can you.
Basically, I think that's what happened after I got married too. Basically, I proposed and then everybody started proposing.
If Max can get married.
If Max can get married.
If Max can get somebody to love him.
Yeah, it's the same thing with when Tim started having kids. Everyone's like, oh, if Tim can have kids, everyone can have kids.
Hey. Quite easy.
Wow, we're getting into the real questions here. Well, guys, no, it was fun. I appreciate the time. I think I learned a lot, and hopefully people took a lot out of this. So, I'll be excited to see how things progress over the next little bit, and maybe we'll have you guys on some other time.
He checks in with us like 2 years later. I quit. I'm now in construction.
What's wrong with construction?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
No, nothing's wrong with construction. I'm like, I'm a Walmart greeter. How about that?
I'm gonna start my own podcast.
All right, guys. Well, with that said, thank you for listening. Thank you for getting to this part if you did. Please subscribe, like, hashtag this podcast. Get your merch, even though it's not for sale.
It's not?
It's not?
I'd buy a mug.
Anyways, guys, tune in a couple weeks when the next episode posts and check us out. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.